Hello and welcome to episode 9 of The Clutch Kick. I am one of your hosts, Greg Merriman, here with co-host...
EG, I'm also one of your hosts, and we also have a special guest, Blake Paterson from Team Marvel. So to start off with, we'll just talk about some news. So last weekend was the Gatton Motorfest, where there was also some drift demos. There was people from pretty far away from Queensland that had travelled all the way up to do some drift demos up there. There was also burnouts up there, I think, and that was the main thing. The street. So to describe the event, it was a street course in an industrial area, and they've just sort of fenced off the course with some concrete barriers and some mesh fencing, and then they had a how would you call it? So they did mungies up the street, a right-hander, then a sort of a no drift zone, I think, and then they started again with a sort of sweeping right again, and that was the course. So from the videos I saw, they were doing about 2 laps. There's a couple of trains there, but I didn't really see much else other than a few videos in Facebook. Also in news, I think we did actually mention it, but applications for Bring the Bash 3 by the Curse Sundays Drift Team have opened. It will be held at Port Macquarie at the go-kart track there.
And also during the week, because they have been inundated, Chev, who's sort of the leader, I guess you'd say, of Curse Sundays, or one of the more senior members, posted up that if you do miss out, there is a good chance that there is going to be long-term drifting at the Port Macquarie go-kart track, and they will potentially be running their own events there, because for the Wollongong guys who run Curse Sundays, it's a really long trip to get up there. So Jacob Peck from, I don't know if he's
I think he's from Queensland.
Yeah, Lower Queensland, Upper New South Wales. I'm pretty sure he's Queensland. He runs Death Click, and he got to test the track on Monday, and he's got a video out on his vlog. So if you want to have a look at that, it's Death Click, CLIQUE, and yeah, he's got a little vlog entry there of the track. It almost looks like a bit like Pat's acreage in the US, with its sort of through the trees and all that sort of stuff. But I know they're still working through some of their DA approval stuff, and they've been given a little bit of attitude from the cyclists track next door.
Oh, really?
And when I say cyclists, I mean like actual cyclists, not motorcyclists. There's a motocross track just down the road, so hopefully there's not too many issues, and if anything, it'll be rules like rally, where it'll just be, a decibel meter that checks the cars. So that will hopefully go down, and they announced today that it'll be 1 to 10 car trains throughout the event, so that should definitely be a cool event. But it looks like the surface is fairly rough, so without proper cooldowns, people are probably going to smash tyres. So hopefully that first event goes well and it can continue, but that's good news for New South Wales. And Chev also put on Facebook that he's working on a few other places around the state as well.
Cool.
So New South Wales drifting is dead.
I think it's great to see more tracks,
Just like how you sound.
Like stuff like that.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, I think that's all I've got.
No, so... Yeah, Queensland Q1 series, whatever it's called, at Archie, starts this Sunday.
This weekend.
They're fairly low numbers at this stage. They'll probably be typical drifters who enter last minute. We'll try and put this up before that round on Sunday, just so if people have listened to this and they don't follow the Archie page, which I would hope it was sort of the opposite, but get triggered to jump on and go either watch that event or drive that event. So hopefully that one is just the start of something big up there, because after the Queensland trip, there's definitely some good driving up there. So yeah.
Okay. So now to introduce our guests. Well, we already introduced him, but just to talk about the actual subject or the theme of this episode.
Let's introduce him more.
Okay.
I was thinking about it before we came on. Anything that involves King is what Blake does well at. King of the Hill twice, podium, Cash Kings winner, got to drive King of Europe. I'm not sure what other. So maybe you need to go to D1NZ, mate, and then because they announce a Drift King at the end of the season, and that will be you.
I feel that makes sense. I mean, more comps need to have King in their name, and I might actually drive well half the time. But
yeah, so
we'll wait and see.
If World Time Attack was called
King Time Attack,
yeah, King
something like that.
Yeah, then that's it. You'd just be up there.
Yeah, I mean, every comp should just change its name to King something. King Rally, King High Tech, like anything like that will work.
You could win Rally by
King Rally.
You could win Rally without it being called King because you can just decide that anyway.
Hey, well, yeah, you are self-judge. I did a fantastic job today. Anyway.
So tell us a bit about yourself then before we get too far into the topic. Yeah,
sure. Okay. Because these videos seem to be stretched out a lot, I'll try and, I guess, make my history a bit quicker. Steve comes to mind. Anyway. Started drifting in 2009. My first track day was with your last couple special guests ago, Dylan Roberts. He spoke about going to a wet pan. That was actually my first track day as well. So started then, had a JZA 70, which was a terrible base to do stuff in. Moved on to a Z20 Sora because I rolled my super, so I just swapped it all in. That was also a terrible base, but sort of cool. So drove that for a fair while until I bought Alex Sharka's car, the white S14, which was a pretty good setup. Driftworks, knuckles, coilovers, and adjustable arms, and then just chucked my J package in it, which was the same one I've had in the street for the last, for me now, as of today, the last 10 years I've had that set up. And then just went from there. Started doing more DCA comps, started at Rayleigh, started driving with people like Brad Toohey, Gav Edwards, Matt Huxley is a bit out of the scene now, but those people were all driving Rayleigh when I started, so driving against those guys. They were slightly more professional than I was, I guess you could say, and so Brad especially has moved sort of forward onto the high-tech series and ADGP as well, I guess. So for me, didn't have a lot of money at the time, so sort of just did my own thing. Did a lot of Wakefield Mat Series. They were really fantastic. A lot of trains there with the Marble guys and the Team Red Stage guys as well. And then chucked in a heap of Japan trips, originally with sort of Jabbit, Camo and Keegan. Was sort of my first trip over there, and that was pretty amazing. So I learned a lot from those guys. And then from then, I think I've been going with you mainly, EG, with the Team Red Stage trips. Yeah, pretty much. I think
have we 2013,
14. That's concerning because for 2013, 14, and I think 15 or 16, we went together every time. So the fact you can't remember that is slightly concerning.
No, I can't. That's all right.
Okay. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
I remember you've been there. No, twice.
Completely.
I remember twice. That's
okay. Fair enough. And then moving into DCA. So a lot of my experiences with DCA, I guess. I sort of did a couple around the high tech. They were good, but sort of not what I needed at that time. I needed more development of my style more than I guess car development at that stage. So I moved towards the DCA style events, driving against people like originally Josh Robinson, but then moving into your Bodie Moores, Stewie, had heaps of battles with Bodie, heaps of reruns. Yeah, so that was really good.
That was cool.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. And
battles against him. I don't know why. That should be in the final.
I don't know how that happened. Yeah. So that probably because I qualified like crap. So
that's the same.
Maybe,
Brody, I think.
I think most of the time it was like top 16, top 17, and we sort of just went straight up against each other like that.
Yeah.
So I guess over the last couple years, my driving has mainly been practice days in my Battle Skyline or whatever, DCAs, and live for speed or Assetto Corsa. Basically, that's most of my driving these days, unfortunately. But and that's sort of where I am today. So that's a brief run of my history.
Cool. That's pretty quick.
I figured it. Wow, cutting it down. I can elaborate on any of those points if you're interested in any of them, but yeah, that's a brief overview.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. We can always have another interview with you.
Yeah, two major ones that you missed out on there, mate. You're one of the few guys who have represented Australia at a drift event overseas, and you've also driven World Time Attack Challenge. Didn't you drive Europe?
No,
Steve got that.
Actually, no. Funny story for that one, because it was King of Asia.
Yeah.
And I battled my way through all day, through all the hardest competitors that was there. So I think Jabs was there, comes to mind, and a few other guys.
Yeah.
Steve had winged it the whole day, got all the way through due to spinning, and I remember I knocked Jabs out, which put me into the final battle, and I was like, yep, going to Europe, psyched, just got to beat Steve. Steve's easy, he was spinning it all day. And then, I don't know, out of nowhere, pulls this ridiculously awesome run and then beats me. So that was incredibly devastating at the time.
It's because he had it easy, he
Steve,
could hold back, that's why. The whole day he had an easy run. Yeah.
So I should have gone there, didn't. And then I believe something else happened. I think it was something to do with that round of DCA where it was at Calder Park.
Yeah.
It went into the night. There was no lights, and I had a torch strapped to the front of my car.
That's right. I remember that.
Which useless. And you had your phone. So EG had his phone sitting on one of the barriers.
No, it wasn't a phone. It was a little small torch. It was on the ground, but then people were saying that it was annoying, so I moved it. But apparently you were using that. So
yeah. So I don't know who said it was annoying. I don't know if they were driving or not. So
they were driving. They were saying that.
Format, oh, were they?
Yeah, they were driving, and they were saying that it wasn't just one person; it's a few. So.
So what happened from my perspective was it was pitch black. We hadn't driven in ages. We went out. We got one sighting lap to figure out where the corners were. And anyone who's driven the DCA layout at Calder, you sort of go up the bank a little bit and you throw down to the inner wall. So EG had his torch light thingy just sitting on that wall, and it pointed straight down. And all it lit up was the edge of the wall. That's it.
Oh, no.
But
it still lit up the edge of the wall. I just rotated it because they said it was too far around.
Did you?
Yeah.
Well, so on my sighting lap, I went around that corner, saw the light, was like, yep, sweet, kicked towards that. You couldn't see anything, but it was a marker.
Yeah.
And then when I went into my battle, I led first. I think I was against Dale Campaign, actually. I led first, entered first corner, looked up, pitch black. You could not see it. There was nothing there.
Yeah.
The torch is gone, so I freaked out, transitioned
it was too
early.
dark. It was probably... So, yeah, what happened was I rotated it because people said it was too bright in front of their eyes. So I rotated it so it was...
It's like a
away.
Phone or something. It was the least possible light for there.
It was like a 80-watt floodlight or something or 80. It was a pretty bright light. I've used it at night before.
Really, I feel we're getting bogged down in the details, but it disappeared, and then that was.
Basically, all I'm hearing is that 2 trips to Europe were cost because of Canberra guys.
Yes, that's exactly right. Yeah,
that's it. That's done and dusted. 2 Canberra guys basically.
So actually, on that one, I can't remember exactly how it ended, but if I beat Campaign, I probably ended up second in the series, and I think Thomas Sabo won that but couldn't go, so he gave it to second, which was then Vody Moore. So that's when he went over. So it was sort of like, in my eyes, which is probably completely incorrect, I'd been robbed of it twice, and I was like, I'm over to Europe, I'm not going, but anyway, yeah. So I haven't been, no.
And then you've been
bringing that up. Thanks for bringing that up. That's awesome.
Well, honestly, I don't know why I thought you had been, but I think because you've always had strong results in DCA, when you show up to more than one event in a season, you do well. Okay. So last year you did World Time Attack Challenge, which is one of those events that can be hard to get into, and considering the love and care you put into the appearance of your car, I think was a surprise for a few for you to get in, not based off the back of your drive, your lack of driving skill, but more based off they really do look for the pro cars, and you had an interesting event there.
That was a new car, wasn't it?
I drove it at DCA at Calder, so that was the one event I did before that.
I wasn't there, so I didn't see it.
generally it was a new car. It's, you bring up a very good point, and what you're saying, Greg, is actually correct. Like, and I guess that's something I'm going to go into more detail when we talk about D1NZ a little bit, if that's the way we're going. I think we are. Was that, for me, drifting was all just fun and chilled out, and I love that underdog thing. I love to be the person who's rocking up and like, wow, whatever, like haven't looked at it and all that sort of stuff, and I'm sort of lazy too, so that matches me. But I guess when you're invited to do an event like World Time Attack, and you do go those bigger events and those bigger opportunities, I guess I just dropped the ball there a little bit, to be honest, and that's a learning that I've taken, because I came well unprepared, and I dropped my igniter the day before, so it drove fine until it got hard on the boost, and then it just broke down horribly, which sort of was a big damper on my World Time Attack event. So when I put on the dyno after the event, the car made 130 kilowatts. Probably would have been fixed if I didn't drop the aluminium spacer off the Yaris coil pack conversion into the cylinder. So my team, thank God, give them credit, spent the entire day pulling the head off the car to get out the stupid spacer that I dropped in it. So not fantastic for mine. But if we didn't do that, we would have got the Yaris coil pack in, and it would have been a completely different story. So, disappointing. But
as shitty as that event was, I think your battle was in the rain, right? Was your battle in the rain?
Just before the rain. 2 battles before that. If it made the rain, it would have been sweet.
Yeah,
but
you actually didn't drive. Like, your battle wasn't a one-sided affair in any way, shape, or form, considering how crap your car sounded.
Yeah, so I went against Gisbergen in the 350, 70, whatever that thing is.
370. Yeah.
70, yeah. And I don't know if it was him being a good sportsman or the way they set up the drag racing cones or what it was, but amazingly off the start I was able to sort of stay close enough with him, and when he sort of kicked it in the corner one when I was on my chase, I don't know how to describe it, he did a bit of a funny line where as a chase car I could just throw it in deep, hold it flat, and I could actually hold on him a fair way through the track. So it was a bit strange because I had 265 semis. It's a very sort of powerful track, but it didn't really need the power when you're chasing to stay sort of close until sort of that last, when you go out onto the ripple strips in that last corner where he started to pull away from me. So, yeah. But as a lead car, I couldn't keep it sideways and straightened and all sorts of troubles there, yeah.
Yeah, but still not, as unprepared as you felt like you were, there was a lot to take homes from it, and the fact that, again, you are probably one of the more aggressive styled guys in the country when it comes to battling, and I guess that's what carried you through to the win at the Cash King event.
Yeah,
but I think that, and I guess once we dive more into the D1NZ stuff, I'm probably going to have a few digs at you about your personal style with stuff, but you do have this aggressive nature, and the first comp I ever saw you do, I met Blake originally at demos at Triple Challenge a few years ago when we were doing at Nitro Cars, and then seeing Blake out at my first round of high tech ever, and Blake did that, and I think you went 3 more times with Mitch Jeffrey at that event. No, I think it was 3, and the third one you dropped a wheel on the bottom corner or something, and that was the only reason that they didn't give it to you. And
when you look at the replay on that, it was like the edge of the track. It was like a pothole off the edge of the track. Yeah. And I dropped into the pothole. So cameras are fantastic things for picking up detail. So
and that ever since then, and every comp I've seen, there is nothing but 110% commitment from your chase runs. So I think, if people recognize Blake's car at all or know anything about Blake's style of driving, it's one of those styles that you really have to sit there, watch and enjoy, because there is nothing but commitment there. So I give you props for that, and I think that's and as I dig into you for the rest of your setup, not your actual suspension setup and motor setup, but
we can talk about that though if you want, so because that's pretty interesting in itself.
We'll get there one day.
It'd be a good lead into D1, actually. Yeah, we'll go on that. So
All right, so Blake was lucky enough, I guess. Would you say lucky enough to go over and spot for, or lucky enough to be asked to go over and spot for Matty Hill at round 3 of the D1NZ series?
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess for you it's been enlightenment. You've had a few enlightenments over the last 12 months, I guess we'd say, with World Time Attack Challenge and then getting to go over to D1NZ and looking at it from a non-driver's point of view. And yeah, tell us a little bit about what you found, what you're looking to do off the back of that, and just things that you think that could be sort of translated over here, and yeah, where we can go from there.
Okay, so so we'll pad this one out a little bit. Like we'll have a conversation about it. Tell us about like the spotting side of things and all that, and then we'll sort of move on from there. Yeah, so look, a bit of background to that. I guess luck, whatever you want to call it. Matty Hill asked me to go over and spot for him. So that was with Team Performance, who are really focusing hard on the D1NZ at the moment. And I'd never really paid much attention to D1NZ, to be honest. I'm the sort of person that I watch drifting, but I don't watch FD at all. I don't even watch D1GP, to be honest. I'm like stuck in the early 2000s of the drifting I'm watching, which is sort of terrible. But anyway, and D1NZ is just another one. I had no idea who was there. I had no idea who was driving. I knew it was like an American style of drifting, similar to like the FD format. So Matty is going hard at the moment for the championship. Won the first round. And the second and third round now he's placed okay, but a couple of little things have happened, so he's currently third in the championship. So I went over with him to New Zealand to, Greg's been talking about it. I believe he's been talking about it in previous Clutch Kick episodes. When you get to this level of the sport, when you're in the car, it's very hard to you look over your shoulder or you're looking at the car and you can feel where it is with regards to the wall. And, you got people like Matt Harvey who somehow understands millimeters of where his car is to the wall. But for most normal people like myself, you go in the corner, you're like, yeah, that was close. That was awesome. I filled all the clips, and somebody watching was like, oh, man, you were nowhere near it. And I guess that's the value of having a spotter there. So he's gone down that approach. He wanted to pick a spotter who was a driver as well, and I don't think there's. I'm not sure it's in the actual video that your cat just jumped up on the table. I can see it on mine, but I'm not sure EG can see it on his.
No, I couldn't see it. Yeah, so that's
what I was looking at.
So that's the famous Blake.
So that's Blake's famous pussy that Warwick Hill's been feeding.
He fed him once, all right? Jeez. Anyway.
Before you go any deeper with that, please. In FD you have to have a spotter. In D1NZ, do you have to have a spotter, or is that just?
Look, I didn't actually read.
FD has the rule.
But, look, I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think you have to have one. They make all allowances for them. You're allowed in the driver's briefing. They have an area for you. But I don't know if you actually have to have one. No, I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, because FD basically has the rule in place because if communication needs to get back to drivers, it goes via the spotter. And if you need to put in a petition or anything, it all comes via the spotter, not through the driver. So, I just wasn't sure if, because they're a little bit more professional than a lot of series other places, I just wasn't sure if that was a requirement.
Yeah. No, I don't believe so. But, it makes sense. Anybody who's serious about that sort of thing, especially if you're going to spend the money to go over to New Zealand and do that, then you definitely should have one for sure.
Yeah.
So, so went over there. I don't know what my expectations were, to be honest. Like, I don't watch FD. I've never watched D1. I have this, how to say it. I used to have this issue for the American style of drifting, maybe similar to maybe how EG alluded to it originally in his, I think it was episode 6, What is Drifting?
5? No. 5, 6?
Is EG still here?
Yeah, EG's still there. Yeah. You can see his eyes moving.
Yeah.
You think he would tune in on this section? I strongly agree with what EG was saying in episode 5. I feel exactly the same way. So my interpretation of drifting is much like that. And so FD and D1NZ is sort of like whatever. It's like, it's not real drifting. It's just, you just got heaps of cash and
it's episode 6.
You know, you go on nuts.
Yeah, it's episode 6. That's my bad.
Sweet, I'm all over it. Yeah, so I don't know. When I went over there, I was a little bit like, oh, here we go. Like, we'll see what happens. But it was interesting. It was a bit of an eye opener in a lot of ways, and a little bit jealous that we don't have that sort of scene over in Australia, or it doesn't seem to have that same scene over in Australia.
What sort of scene is that?
So like, okay, so the first thing I noticed when I got there was the cars. All right. Now, I personally don't have heaps of money, so I mean, my car is super simple. It has, like, people go, oh yeah, it looks pretty good, and like 400 kilowatts and all that sort of stuff, but it is $50 bottom end, GE bottom end, some old school GT35 strapped to the side of it. Like, it's a cheap setup. I reckon you could build that car for 12 grand, 13 grand. Like, it's a slapper.
Yeah.
All the arms are now, they were Driftworks. Now they're whatever I could find, combination mixed in there. Yeah. So for me, the first thing I noticed was the cars. They were just, you know, you had the likes of your Darren Kelly's driving a 35 GTR. I know it's got a 26 in it, but still, you're like, oh yeah, okay.
So these got. Is there 2 series? Is it you talking
there
about
is
the
2
Pro
series.
or the
Yep.
Pro-Am or whatever
Well,
they call
look,
it?
both. So D1NZ seems to have a Pro series and a Pro-Am series.
Yep.
And at that event as well was also Drift South, which I believe, I'm not 100%, maybe Greg knows, I'm not 100% sure how that fits in. I think it's a completely separate series.
Yeah, I will check it now, but I'm pretty sure it's not involved in the rest of their like national series. I'm pretty sure it's just the South Island series.
Yeah.
So the cars that you're talking about, they were the ones in the Pro or the Pro-Am, or which series?
So the Pro, if you look at the Pro series, we'll start with that.
Yep.
I mean, every car has a dog box. Every car has, you know, at least 400, 500 kilowatts. You've got 35 GTRs. You had Fanger Dan in his Mustang, the RTR Spec 5 or whatever it is.
And that was the first round that he'd actually been in the... He has 2. I'm pretty sure he had the demo one that he drove at the first 2 rounds, but I think that was the arrival of the new one, which was like a Vaughan Gittin Jr. spec, same as what Chelsea Denofa and Vaughan are driving over in the US, and that was the first time that car saw competition. So that's... Yeah. Insane.
Oh, look, maybe we'll add some visual cues in. So, like, I mean, Fanger Dan was driving that sort of setup there. So you know, his car presentation.
That's a Mustang, is it, on the left?
Yeah, you can just add the picture in.
Yeah,
Like,
I will, but
yeah,
we'll probably just describe it as well.
Yeah, for people driving along. Yeah, so it's the Mustang.
Yeah, and there's
but
like
it's
a
like
trailer
a
or something.
big enclosed car carrier.
Yeah.
A lot of banners around, posters, that sort of stuff.
Yep.
The you know, Team Jenkins guys, Troy and Ben were there in their, you know, immaculately presented S15, S13 with like the Japanese style vinyls. Like that's a pretty awesome sort of setup as well.
But that was the Matty Hills cars next to the
and the performance car was next to him too. Yeah. I sort of forgot he was there. I can't remember his name at the moment, but Jody Venhurst is
the guy that you were spotting for.
No, not that dude. I know he's there. Yeah, Matty Hill. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah,
you know.
I forgot that Matty was there.
Yeah, his car's pretty cool too. But we've most of us in Australia have seen that, so like let's not dwell on that one. But what's her name? Jody Venhurst, and who's she going out with?
Donnie.
Yeah, Donovan. Drew Donovan. Yeah, so their setup was pretty ridiculous with the big full car transporter.
That's with cars. I'm just trying to look at the picture,
yeah,
but
that's
I can't
cool.
really tell. So it's 8.6 with some livery in the side of it.
Yeah, so
they're all matching cars, are they? Or?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, 2 Supras, one with an 8.6 front, one with a NASCAR V8, I believe.
Okay.
So there's at least 2 or 3 cars there with NASCAR V8s. You had The MCA car, which I believe runs, this is pro, by the way. The MCA car, which Gisbergen was driving, I believe he runs a 5.8 litre petrol engine.
Wow.
VK56 or something like that.
Yeah, which wouldn't have been...
That's the new one, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
crazy.
So that's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
You had a 1GZ. Anybody who knows the 1GZs out of the Centuries, the V12s? There was a guy who was running one of them, which...
In a 14.
A 14, yeah, with a full billet. Oh, E.G. add the picture here, but it's a full billet head block. I think it's a billet block as well. It didn't even run a harmonic dampener because apparently they've spent like all this time balancing it and all that sort of stuff. But I was told that's $100,000 engine plus.
Wow.
Yeah, Carl Thompson's car, who runs used to own Fat Boy, I think.
Yeah. Fat Boy.
His car was, it looked like an S15 with a sprint car engine in it or something, and 900 horsepower NA.
So my question is, with all this, is what's the justification over there for it? What's being done that's different that it's
why do you
worth
need those cars?
What's the point? Like, not in a negative way, but sort of from that point of view of, it is, New Zealand's a small country. Drifting is fairly big there, but it's still not, it's never going to have the economy that a Formula D or a D1 GP is going to have. What justification are these guys putting on these setups in regards to, I guess, the limited amount of information you would have found out, but chasing sponsorship and putting on a show and doing social media stuff? Like, what did you sort of find out from the guys when it came to that sort of thing? Because the stuff's ridiculous for what it is.
It is, and it's like in some ways it's just not needed, I guess. But at the same time, it is a spectacle. Like, I was impressed. I was like walking around, looking at all the cars. I was like, it was like being at a car show. I was loving it. But yeah, it was a funny one. Like, I talked to Ben Jenkins, and he was. He said, everybody thinks sponsorship drops on your lap over in New Zealand, but he's like, I went out and I chased for it, and we worked hard for it, him and Troy, and I believe they were given a couple 86s by Toyota over there.
Yeah.
So they're building them up.
They've got a big push this year with social media and all that.
Yes.
I've seen them do a lot more than the last half of last season, and then a lot more this year.
Yeah. Their content, even though I'd actually never watched it because I don't watch anything, but afterwards I went and watched a lot of these things, and it's actually fun to watch. Like, I enjoyed what they were doing, what they were saying, how they were setting their cars up, like the social media side of it. It wasn't just, for them at least, I can't talk about the other guys, but it wasn't just, oh yeah, I better make a post so my social media is good, or oh yeah, I took this photo, this angle, because that's a cool looking photo. It was more like I enjoyed watching it because they made it interesting. It was obviously that's why they're doing it, but it was fascinating to watch at the same time, and gave me ideas of things that I want to do differently. And and I think I don't know, are people doing that here? Like, I don't know. I don't follow drifting, but are people doing posts that are just, oh, I went to this event, happy days, or is it actually something that people, like, I could ever watch? What's everybody watching at the moment? Married at First Sight, or whatever crap people are watching, or I can actually watch this video on this guy who went to this event because that's more interesting than the generic junk. Like, are we doing that here? Are we? Yeah,
and look, honestly, now when you say it, is I could watch 24 hours of drifting every day, because like through YouTube and through Facebook, there is so much out there from around the world that you could watch something new that you've never seen before. Almost, I think you'd easily get 24 hours of content between your grassroots guys in the US, like your TJ Hunts and Adam LZs and Taylor Ray, through to I don't know if you've seen any of Matt Field's Corvette build. He's basically got a series at the moment called Field Day, where he's building his new Corvette for the FD season.
Don't know if he's also making a video as well. Videos as well.
Yeah, and
I think so. JR had some before, but I don't know where they've gone. I think they just popped up and then they're just not there anymore. Like, he doesn't make it anymore. I have no idea.
Yeah.
They just haven't popped up on YouTube for me. So,
well, and I guess one of the more interesting ones, a little bit off topic, is from FD, Chris Forsberg and Ryan Turk have moved into a facility that basically a garage facility that is owned by Donut Media, who's a big YouTube sort of content creator. But they've basically bought a warehouse garage setup, and that's where those 2 cars are going to live. That's where those boys are going to work on those cars, and those guys are going to make content all year round based off those guys and their cars throughout the season. And yeah, the Jenkins boys over in New Zealand, I think, are doing something fairly similar from their home garage. But I would say that nobody here is doing anything close to that. I think you've got Jake Jones doing a little bit of his vlog stuff, but he's sort of a bit behind. But he's also, working full time trying to pay for all his habits. And then I think the next biggest one we probably have here is Jacob Peck, who we spoke about early in the episode. He's got a fairly decent vlog going on, but none of our pro guys other than Jake that I have seen do any content like that. And I think that's where a lot of the ball is totally being dropped within Australia. I think it's just sort of the laziness and hoping that things will drop in people's laps that really is costing it. So after going and seeing, I might be wrong, so people throw corrections at me when it comes to who's doing what content. Tell me, because I'd love to see more of it. Even, I've got vlogs that I'm supposed to upload from bloody Mount Gambier that I just haven't had time to get around to. But so you've gone over and seen this stuff now, and you're feeling a little bit inspired. Is it something that you feel like you'd be able to dedicate yourself to, or is it more financially viable for you to just work full time and pay for that stuff out of your own pocket?
Yeah, look, that's a very good question. Look, I don't think I have the personality type for social media. You got some people who you meet.
Coming from the dude having no trouble talking on this at all.
Yeah. Look, I don't know. Like sometimes, you meet people and they're just like want to be your best friend. You talk to them straight up, and they're very extroverted. They're very, they can talk and they can just talk about anything all the time. I mean, maybe. I had it, as EG said, I had an attempt leading up to World Time Attack to sort of push my social image, and just got lazy because I'm a lazy person, I guess. I don't know. But maybe, I guess the biggest thing I took away from it as a person, as a personal point, was the car prep was a big thing. Every car over there looked sick. You know what I mean? Like, they all had wraps, all their pit stuff was all laid out very professionally. They had pit walks where, they had posters and the crowd would stream in, and all the kids wanted to side posters. It reminded me of what the Speedway was like when I was a kid, I guess, when I went and watched. And for me, it was always like drifting was always like, I'm just some hack driving a car. Like, I'm not a athlete or whatever, it was always sort of like, I don't know how to describe it. Like, I'm not at that level. But I guess when you look at the comps we're driving in, especially World Time Attack, irrelevant of what skill I have, I was at that level. And I didn't follow through with the professionalism that the sport demanded. And when I look at it now, a wrap, even though it seems sort of expensive, isn't really that expensive in a couple ways. And having a gazebo with some walls and maybe a tarp along the bottom and set up so that people will pass, go, oh, this guy knows what he's doing, again, is quite cheap. But people don't do it. I don't do it. I know some people attempt to. Like the guy, I don't know if you guys talked about him, but there was a guy at Gambia driving that blue S15. I think he was a circuit racer.
Ian.
Yeah, his pit setup.
Roger Ianson.
Yes, something like that. His pit setup was amazing. Like, I walked past and Sean, who's like sort of team manager / mechanic, I guess, who sort of helps me out. I was like, yeah, Sean, there you go, have that set up. And he was just like, yeah, it was an impressive setup. And I feel that's something that's really easy that we don't do. I don't do it, but why don't I do it? Like, they're little things,
But do you think I think that's a heavy demonstration of culture, both your points about New Zealand and about that guy set up at Mount Gambier. He's come from a racing background, and that's the norm there, where at a drift event in Australia, that's not the norm, where D1NZ hasn't had a break since, Jesus, probably, I would say 2006 or something, probably even prior to that. They haven't had the lull in the series like we had here with with Drift Australia going down, then ADGP going down. And it sort of, it didn't start like that.
No.
And I guess even the picture of Fanger Dan's rig, was that a full truck and trailer setup?
Yeah, it was. No, it was like I think it was like a third wheeler, maybe.
Okay.
But a lot of other guys were running that full truck setup, like the full semi setup, you know?
Yeah. No, because I know even Fanger Dan setup for that, I think was, and again, I might be wrong, but he's only a couple of seasons old.
Yeah.
So
like, I always believe that in Australia, because I am new to the sport, and I think Greg yourself probably knows a lot more about this than me, but I look at go-karting, I look at other traditional forms of motorsport, and people usually get into it from a very young age. They're groomed as they get older on how to behave, how to present themselves, how to speak to sponsors. But with drifting, I think most people get into drifting like I did. Parents couldn't afford me a electric bloody car thing, let alone a go-kart. So I rode my push bike around until I could afford to buy my own car. So sort of self-funded, and by the time I got to a level of the sport, being a new sort of sport, I didn't know how to behave. And I feel a lot of drifters don't know how to behave in a professional sense because they've never been groomed to do that. And so when you want to get sponsorship like Toyota, Nissan, whose reputation within the country depends on how their drivers behave. I mean, this is just my observation. It might not be true, but I mean, is that a factor?
I think I've seen other people that have gone through go-karting or BMX or motocross, and they've been competitive. So as they've been growing up, but they still have this sort of thing where they don't need to be this way in Australia. They think, no, I don't need to be professional. And then I think I'm pretty sure it's attitude or the types of people that we're getting.
It's honestly, I think it's Aussie culture to me more than anything. I saw it, fundamentally in skating. The Aussie attitude towards things is, whatever, it'll just sort itself out, or that's lame, that's gay, that's why would you do that, why bother,
the underdog culture sort of thing.
Don't
put too much effort into it because you're not that good,
why bother? Like, why bother doing that? Like, why bother showing up with a clean car? Why bother doing that? It just, I think honestly, it's an Aussie culture more than anything, and it sort of shows itself through the failures of ADGP that set itself up sort of right in the first place, and then sort of let things get a little bit out of hand, and then similar to the high-tech series where most people just, want to half sort of do it rather than fully do it.
But see, like, you look at it from a different perspective. Your last guest last week, I'm terrible with names, but the Gravy guy. Yeah, okay. So you look at Team Gravy. Now they're not the comp side of it, whatever, but their cars are all presented very nicely. They have a website. They have and they drive in trains, and I know it's not exactly what we're talking about as far as a professional image looking for sponsors, but even EG said it last week. That guy is probably, or that team's probably a team that if sponsorships are going to be offered, he'd be getting it. And you're like, well, why? And you look at their liveries, you look at how they're presenting themselves. It doesn't need to be I work for a business, I'm going to be a business professionalism sort of view, but you need to, you know what I mean? Like, it seems that is the common element here.
But so I take that in two ways, is as a collective, they're comfortable within themselves. So when they're talking, they have 14 cars. They're not lame because there's 14 of them. So therefore they're cool. But if you, myself, and EG tried to copy them, most people in Australia would say, why are you trying to be them?
I don't say copy people, though. That's not what I'm saying at all.
No. I'm not saying you would say that. I would say the majority of Australian people would then go, well, why are you trying to be other people? Like, why are you trying to copy them? And that's the sort of crap that I think the Australian culture tends to carry on within sport.
Like Team Kamikaze with Gravy.
Yeah.
Because someone was relating their cars looking kind of similar to the Gravy cars.
I think that was you, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was me.
Yeah. Oh, I thought it was EG. Doesn't matter anyway, yeah.
No, I'm pretty sure it was me.
No, they do look similar. They're both like...
Yeah. They do. They've got the same sort of style. Yeah.
dark set of cars, and then they've got a very shiny livery. And you could, if they're together in a group, then you can kind of see the similarities between them.
But again, that's because it's in that scene. It's now becoming culturally acceptable to be showing up, or it's almost becoming an expectation that you're showing up with these nice cars for these Matsuri, for the Queensland Matsuri stuff. At least the expectation is that you are showing up with these nice cars on nice wheels with, you know, just looking good. And I think that's something that sort of lacks in the rest of the Australian drift community when it comes to that sort of thing. When it does come to showing up to these events and getting their stuff together to make it happen. If we are talking Australian drifting getting back to the Drift Australia days and ever being anything similar or like D1NZ.
At the same time, I think you're right, but I do see elements of that starting in sort of people coming through as well. So take the car you borrowed for Gambia.
Yeah, Hung's car.
So, yeah, the team, what has he got in the back? Team something.
Yeah, E-Spirit or whatever it is.
Yeah, Team Spirit or something. You know, like I know they copied that from the Nakamura thing or whatever, like the burst thing. But his car looked pretty cool. Like I looked at it, I was like, that's a cool looking car, you know? And so he's got these pockets of people coming up. You look at Paul, God, what's his name? Ash Brown and Paul... Alexander, that's what it is. And they've got something Hart Racing, as you can see
Running Hard or something.
Yeah, it's like Running Hard or something, you know. So those boys are Running Hard Drift Crew, that's what it is. So those boys are really pushing it too. So it's like that sort of stuff. And I, as a point against myself, I've always said that that's what I wanted to do, but have never really followed through because I think I always use the excuse of I drive and crash too much, but at the same time, it's still not that much effort to make your car look good like that, you know.
But do you feel like you're being not pressured directly, but do you feel like you're being pressured by the scene within Australia now, I guess, or after your experiences and what you're seeing more and more to actually clean up your act if it's something that you think that you can push forward with?
You know, as with all of us.
I mean that almost as a positive thing.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. As with all of us, sponsorship would be good because it'd let me drift more, it'd let me, you know, get out there more and all that sort of stuff. But I guess that's not really a key driver for me right now. I'm just sick of having a car that looks like a piece of crap, to be honest. Like, it looks all right, but it you know, it's got a good body kit on it that needs to be painted and needs to have more presentation put into it. Like mismatched wheels. Like I've got cool wheels, but they're all mismatched. Like it's hard to. Is it a pressure from the community?
Not a direct pressure. I mean an indirect pressure that you're seeing these things coming up and now you're like, oh shit, I should really clean up my act.
Maybe. I mean, partially. I think. Look, I'm the sort of person that if I see somebody else drifting or if I see somebody drifting at a drift day and I'm not there, I'm just like, I hate that person. Like, I just want to drive. They're getting better than I am and I'm not, you know. So I'm that sort of person. So I guess when people are doing things that I think's cool and I'm more like, oh, yeah, okay, you do that and I haven't done that yet and all that, you know. So maybe that little bit of an aspect into it. But at the same time, I think the biggest thing I took away from, take the Jenkins boys, for example, take Ben especially. You look at his car, and it's funny because they all call it the little SR over there, but the little SR makes 450 kilowatts. Like, you know. But anyway, his car itself is fairly basic. Apart from the engine, like it's got stock dash still, all that sort of stuff. I think it doesn't have a tube front end, doesn't have a tube back, I believe. I guess the thing I took away from it is that you can get to that level without actually spending as much money as it seems that you need to spend to get to that level. And that was a big thing for me because I always thought it was like, you see, I don't know, your Brad Tui's, I guess, of the world, or your Rob Whites, or Bo Yates is an even better example. And you're just like, I haven't got that much money. Like, I can't afford that. But then you think about it and you're like, I guess this, for me, was like, well, actually I could. Like, maybe not have the same car as Bo Yates, but the same people walk past and go, that's pretty cool, you know, like.
Yeah, and I guess this is when we spoke about it in one of the early episodes with EG, it's the American influence on everywhere. Like, your FD drivers are now building cars with the rear end cut off it and the front end cut off it, because round one of the season, they're expected to run three walls, I think. So chance are round one, they're going to fuck some shit up. And, you know, for them, it's sort of like, well, how can I minimize the turnover time between events? Okay, it's quicker if I cut it off now, where for somebody like a Ben or over in New Zealand or for most of us over here, there's very few tracks where you're expected to put your rear wheels into a wall. So there's not really much.
You look at DCA series. Every track you need to put your car in the walls. Like, literally.
No, you don't. Because
no, you don't.
No, you don't. Because Tasmania, you don't have to. There's no walls in Tassie.
Yeah.
The Rayleigh ones there wasn't. Taylor one there wasn't.
All the tracks we don't drive at the moment.
Well, Tasmania's still on there.
Tasmania's still on there. Great.
And then this year it's 2 out of 3. So.
Yeah, I'm not saying don't run the hard comps because the walls make things exciting. It really does. Like, and you look at.
But most people are only doing. Yeah, most people are only doing. But somebody like Ben, I would guarantee for Ben, if at round 2 in the speedway, if he had put the rear of that car into a wall and done enough damage, they would have cut the rear end off that, and it would have been. That would have been done, and it would have been tubed. And same with Matty Hill with his D1NZ car, now his local car. He almost basically wrote the rear end off that car.
He did.
At DCA Calder last year, and that's when they went and spent the money on tubing the rear end. So I think a lot of people feel the pressure to build the cars straight away to that level because of an American influence.
Well, yeah, and you're going down a completely different discussion now, but yeah, for sure.
But I think this is the point, like that you were sort of indirectly making, is you felt like there's this huge pressure on you to go and spend all this money on getting all this stuff done. But now you've seen a basic car, but that car's a basic because it hasn't needed it because nothing's happened.
Yeah, but it depends. Okay, so like I might be, how to say it? I might be in an isolated case where I have friends who are able to do them sort of things. So. It's cheaper.
It's cheaper, but you're still spending money.
Yeah, maybe it's not a universal thing, but I guess.
But even if it costs you,
what am I even getting at?
But even if the rear end chop on your car was going to only cost you $300 in material, $150 in beer for your mate, plus whatever else in consumables, that's. $500, $600, $800 that you could have put towards the wrap, which for you is more important than a rear end chop.
Yeah, 100%. Look, I guess to make sure that we stay on, to make sure that we make a point.
Yeah, I think you're going to be confused because Blake was saying it's not that difficult to make your car at that level.
And that's what I'm saying. Yeah. Yes.
And so he doesn't need to cut it off. And even if he does do it, then he just...
We'll just do it. You do it as an out of necessity.
Yeah. So, I'm not too sure what you're trying to get at.
No, my point more is that people start to feel that pressure to get stuff like that done. Oh, I can't compete at that next level because I don't have that done to the car. But
I feel that's a very
it's ignorant.
I'm trying to say this carefully.
Yeah, they haven't looked at it. They haven't looked at it properly.
100%. But this is my point, and that's why I was pointing out that most of the time it's come out of necessity or the fact that section of the car was irreparable, so that's why it's happened, as opposed to, hey, we're building a drift car, let's chop the front and the back off it straight away.
Yeah, for sure. And that's, look, yes. So with that regard, which actually supports my point.
I was supporting your point.
You can make something look cool that people are like, yeah, that's sweet, and we want diversity in this sport as well. So we don't want every car to look like Gravy Garage in regards to copying. Like, everybody needs to have their own individual style because that's what will make it interesting. I guess the thing that I took away from it is that I could have a car that people are like, oh, that's pretty cool, like, or like, I like that, and it sort of stands out. Okay, so I'll use an example, and should I use this?
Just do it.
I have a bunch of mates who live in Sydney. They're not drifters. They do a lot of circuit stuff. And I sent them... he messaged me while I was in a comp. And he said, what are you doing? And I took a picture from my race car out the front. And it was a picture of Dave Stankowski's car because he was the person in front of me.
In the AU
he
Falcon.
Replied, replied... What? Yeah, so you're driving along, like, who cares? Like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, well, actually, I'm in, like, one of the highest level comps in Australia at the moment. And I guess, and I think this requires a little bit of support as well. Like, I think... I'm sort of even going to have to start again. Okay, I'll finish that point first. My point is that we are at a high level, irrelevant of whether you want to believe that or not, I guess, or whether you think that's the case or not. And at some stage, we sort of have to man up and be like, I should present myself as that as well. And that's something that, self-admittedly, I probably haven't done. And I sit there as well as, I guess, a lot of other people and go, I wish I had the sponsors of this person. Or I wish I could drive, and do this event. Like, they're so lucky. And it's like, well, it's not luck, dude. You make your own luck. Like, and that's something that maybe is my realization, that what have I done directly to get better sponsors? Not better sponsors, because the sponsors I have at the moment are fantastic and they see me for who I am, but see the more superficial side of it, which I sort of hate at the same time, because drifting shouldn't be superficial. But I think you've got your QR match series like you talked about last time, and they're the events where you go out, you throw down, you have fun, and you got people who do that, and that's great. And I like doing that sort of stuff as well, and I really want to make it to a QR match series as well. But you also have another bunch of people who want to push comps. And I think for those type of people who that's what they want to do, they need to lift and actually get their presentation to a stage which is showing people who potentially want to support that's what you're there to do. And I guess it's an interesting topic. Like, it's on edge in a lot of ways.
But I think presentation is still only a really, really small part of that.
But see, do you really?
So.
I don't think it is.
No. So you still need.
Perception.
Right.
You still got to have your perception, but at the end of the day, you look like no. So I'm saying your car has to be 110% prepared, look really nice, but I'm saying that's only 5% of what you need to do to be able to get those sponsorships. You need to be able to.
No, I don't think so.
I don't think that's the case.
Because you look at people like Mad Mike, and then like initially when he started, he had a cool car. He couldn't drive very well. Now he can drive a lot better, but it was just a car.
But again, things have changed.
How?
Yeah. I agree with EG. It's a perception thing.
Yeah.
Because
partly perception, but he would have done a huge hustle in the background to get a lot of that. Plus, he had come from the motocross background, so already had the contacts. You look at somebody like a Brad Toohey who came from another sporting background, already knew how to speak to people and approach people, and knew how to sell a package.
That's part of perception.
So that's still perception. But I thought we were talking car presentation. I'm saying car presentation is still only a very small part of your sales pitch.
They still see it.
Yeah.
Because if you're a sponsor, like a big company, and then you look at it, you look at Blake's car, even though it's a bit rough, it's still like an imported car with a body kit. Then the next car along in front of him is looks like a stock standard AU Falcon, like a gold thing that you buy for $500.
Yeah.
And thinking, what's these cars doing together? They're not. It's like, is he pulling the yellow one off the track, or like, is it?
Yeah.
Even though he can drive well, the car doesn't look like it's in a setting. Like, you can't sort of take a photo, pick it up, and then say, this is a drift race or whatever. It's just like,
correct.
What's happening? I don't know.
And that's the biggest issue to me. And it's not an issue. It's not. Don't get me wrong. It's not an issue. It depends on what you're trying to achieve. But I like Stankowski a lot. Like, I spent a lot of time drifting with him at Rally. He is one of the fastest drivers in Australia. He is really, really good. Yeah. And he lives his own band, like his own path too. And he does whatever he wants. And I reckon that's really awesome. But for me, if I've got a picture, let's say the best one I do is like sitting right up on him going over a hill, and I'm like, yeah, that's a sick piece of driving. And even if my car was really, really cool, if I then took that to a sponsor, because I just did this a little while ago, I took it to a sponsor, and he's just like, is that an AU? And as cool as that is, and this is the problem, as cool as that is, and I love that because I'm always a big underdog guy. I'm always like, dude, did you see what that dude in the AU did? Like, it's standard with a bunch of 32 coilovers bolted in the back. Like, that is really, really cool to me. But from a person who has money and wants to invest a significant amount of money into the sport, they don't look at it the same. And that's where D1NZ, every single car looks like it should be there. And I don't think Australia as a culture, especially within drifting, is at that level. I think that's maybe the biggest issue. Because
that could be fixed by the drivers, or
maybe, I don't know. I don't have the answers. I only have the observation. But
all right.
But do you think even saying like Stankowski's AU just being made a little bit more race car like, say, because you sort of look at that video that went viral from the Adelaide 500 last year of the EG Civic, going against the AE86. Man, both old buddy cars, who could give two craps about them really, but cool racing again, similar situation to you on door with an AU Falcon, but look like race cars. And again, the AU Falcons, almost from a sponsorship point of view, I would say that the AU Falcons down at Mount Gambier were worth more money than your car or my car because they got a whole lot more views.
Yeah, true. And you look at Broadbent from World Time Attack, 3 or 4 years ago, whatever it was. I think it was Broadbent. He was the underdog.
The underdog.
Australia loves the freaking underdog,
Yeah, but he only got exposure for that one time. And I think any sort of smart person will figure out this is like, it's a viral, like one-time viral thing only, rather than something consistent. So,
if somebody,
if you can leverage that though, it just comes down to how you leverage that stuff
straight away. Like you look at Connor's stuff as well.
Straight away.
Look,
in the front-wheel drive Prelude, then he put up a video. Then that got submitted to Car Throttle, and then when they posted it, it went crazy. And then he was trying to feed off that, but it didn't quite work. So then he gave them another video, and he tried to comment straight away, so then he could actually get more. You can get more viewers. So
yeah, I had this discussion with another driver the other night, and it's one of those things where I think if you're gonna do something that's viral, have a feeling something you're gonna do is gonna go viral, you have to leverage it before you let that viral video or viral thing come out, because you almost have to have things in place or come up with almost do a teaser of it and then try and sell it to companies or sell it to people and go, I'm about to do this. Look, I've put up a snippet of it and I already got 100,000 views on it, but I'm going to do a full length version of it, similar to Luke's the video of Luke driving the 1VR at that abandoned shopping centre up in Queensland. If he had done like a little snippet of that, not done too much, and then gone and sold it to some sponsors, he potentially would have picked up some money for doing that video. And I think people have got to be smarter. If people are expecting to make money or leverage these things into something else other than just having a cool video, you've got to start looking at how you can monetize that.
So you have to prepare pretty much.
100%, like Jai's video from Rally, where I think he's up to like 95,000 views of that really just sick smooth run from halfway hangs. He's up to like 95,000. No, the one you got with the one.
It's the one you sort of went backwards on.
Yeah,
the hill, wasn't it? Yeah, it's the Black S13 or whatever. Yeah.
But the
thing with all of those videos that I think EG has a very good point on is that it's not consistent to be able to do that. Like, you've done something that's unique, right? You need to then move away from it. Like, you take Bo Yates, probably arguably one of the most...
He would be Australia's most professional...
in Australia.
He would be Australia's most professional
Him and Bob
drifter.
White sort of thing. But Bo Yates I prefer because I think he wasn't involved in the business. Like he was purely driver skill or whatever. But if he kept on driving a car that didn't progress at the speed of his sponsorship / popularity, imagine if he drove an AU the whole time. Like, yeah, at first you'd be like, well, that's sick, dude. You drove an AU. But that's going to get really tired really quickly, right?
That's why as far as he did change. Like, he changed from the AE86 to the FT86.
Correct. That's my point. And people need to evolve with the sponsors.
But that was also off the back of his sponsorship deal, though, I think. Agreed. I'm pretty sure a lot of...
Oh, agreed. And I'm not going out and buying the 86E.
But changed to that as well. Like, he was building on that.
but I think I would. I think that's all. Yeah, I think somebody like a Brad too is potentially a better example of that, where he had moved from the S13 through to the 86 again as to being a more modern chassis and it being something to sell better to sponsors. Where Bo had that natural progression where he's gone from being in an AE86 through to an 86 when they first came out, and again he had ties within Toyota already, where Brad came through and was like, oh, this is the next platform. I'm going to jump on the next platform instead of running my 1990 S13 with a V8.
Well, you look at Josh Robinson.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was another sponsorship deal as well. So it was an opportunity that he had been, I think he found and he was trying to push for, I guess, or work towards. Yeah. And I don't think it was, he had to change. I think he just saw the opportunity there and he worked for it.
But again, it's still what Blake's talking about in that being that progression to try and continue to pick up sponsors, though.
Yeah, for sure. And I think you look at and then the other end of the extreme, you talk about somebody like Josh Robinson. I mean, his experience is in Toyotas, Chases. That's what you like to drive.
He's a rally guy before that.
Yeah, correct. Before that, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I might be, but I'm pretty sure this is the case. His car choice of the Ute was predominantly pushed as a result of the sponsorship deal that he could do with that car. So effectively, the sponsors
so as well.
Yeah, the sponsors.
I don't know, but I think as well. Yeah.
So I believe, and this could be wrong, that he approached like Horsepower Factory and was like, "There's only one other Ute in Australia. Whatever, I can do this, this, and this, but I can push your platform into Australian drifting." And he did it in that direction. So
yeah, I think I heard the same story.
But again, you've got to look at what Josh does day to day. He's a businessman, so he knew how to sell that because he sells product day to day. He was able to sell that to them, knowing what they're looking for.
Yeah, but that's still the same thing.
Yeah, but that's fine.
Yeah,
like you should be looking at the people's success to make decisions.
Yeah,
similar.
100%. But it's sort of people have got that foot up already, and for your average Joe like the three of us, you're gonna have to put in it. If you want that sort of thing, it's not just a case of, oh, I'm going to talk to this business and it's going to happen. These guys know how to sell, so you've got to work out a way to be able to sell.
But this is actually my whole point, and this is where I started from. Is that, and no, you articulated it quite nicely there, is that when you compare New Zealand, this is what Ben was saying. Ben was like, people sort of expect it to fall on your lap in Australia, but you can't. You need to go out, you need to work, and working isn't necessarily driving. Working is working on your ability to sell yourself to sponsors. Working is, understanding what wrap is going to work for you that's going to get you in the sponsor's eyes. Like, it's so much more than just, I drive well, give me shit, Like, and I don't think anybody thinks like that. Like, it's not like if you said to me, it's like, do you expect sponsorship? I'd be like, no, of course I don't expect it. But at the same time, when I analyze myself and go, what have I done apart from the few sponsors that I have, which are really good to me and they see me for who I am, but apart from that, I haven't done much to get them. So I can't sit here and go, the scene's crap in Australia, you can't get sponsors in Australia, because I haven't done anything to get that. And I think a lot of people's in the same sort of boat. They think they are, but are they really?
Yeah,
are you focusing on the wrong things? And that could be a matter because we're not businessmen. We don't know what to focus on. And if you don't know what you don't know, then it's really hard to fix that, right? And that's why a platform such as Clutch Kick is a good opportunity to be like, all right, everybody, this is what we need to be focusing on, or something like that. And
that's part of the reason we started this. So here's my question for you.
Yeah.
So you said you were approaching sponsors recently.
Yeah.
I can think of the two major things that you should be chasing sponsorship for. What are the things you're currently looking for?
I crash my car all the time, so I need a body kit sponsor, which thankfully Katie at Origin's already got. Or help me out with. But I'm not a great panel beater, so a panel beating place would be nice. Also, transportation. If somebody could tow my car around Australia so I don't have to do it, that'd be fantastic as well. And then obviously tyres. Everybody needs tyres. But in some cases, money would be good too, because money will buy tyres. So
but I'm glad that was your last point. Was money.
I see where you're going with this. Yeah, for sure.
Because like you sort of hit the first two things that I was going to say you need the most. Is with your car is pretty reliable, so you're not chasing. You don't need cash money to keep the car up and running. You're looking for presentation, at least to leverage yourself to maybe look at those next levels of sponsorship. And I think that's where a lot of people sort of go for the downfalls. You know, some people can keep a car straight, and that's not saying that Blake is somebody who loves just running into stuff. He just drives on the edge all the time, and that's part of
carried away.
Yeah, and that's just part of it. So for him, that's where he should be targeting. You know, for others, that might not be what they necessarily need. Maybe they do need to just go and sell themselves and hope some business will swing them, $300 an event or something like that. But I think by at least picking up one sponsor and making it look like if you've got at least one company that's willing to jump on board with you, even if they're paying half your entry fee per competition round or something, which, what works out to be, $175 or something, it's enough that potentially people are starting to show faith in you. Others may start to show some faith in you. But I think everybody's hoping that, you'll get $100,000 deal a year, that everything's just there. The car's prepped. You show up and hope that it all sort of happens.
Yeah, for sure. Look, it's I think we could probably talk about this topic or not, but it's yeah, I don't have an easy solution apart from. No,
I don't think there is an easy solution, but laziness is probably the biggest killer, really. Definitely,
100%, and I can see that in myself. Like that's a self, reflective issue that I have to not being further along. So.
Yeah, but then again, it comes up to that point. If you've got a job where you're earning $300,000, $200,000 a year, if you can afford just to pay somebody, if you can afford to pay somebody on the side just to, hey, build me the car, don't worry about it, and you just run a plain car and don't have any sponsors, that's fine. That's probably more effective than hustling to try and pick up, even $50K a year sponsorship, because you're probably going to spend more man hours and more money trying to even pick that up. So for some people, I would say, you're in a better position just to keep doing what you're doing. And if you can keep it professional on your own dollar, maybe a sponsor will fall in your lap, but there's no guarantee that will that will happen.
Yeah, because I think, we started talking about differences between D1NZ and Australia, and that was the first and potentially biggest thing that stood out to me was that difference. But there was money there. There is significant money. And to answer what EG said originally, I talked about Pro, but Pro-Am, most Pro-Am cars have a dog box minimum. They're all wrapped. There was a full wrapped Falcon car, and insert picture here. That's Pro-Am.
Thanks, Blake. Yeah, your fan was also getting in your mic.
Just later on.
Okay. Oh yeah, I'll put a picture in. Just describe the picture though.
Yeah, it's I think it was a 180 or something. It was a full wrapped. It was like wrapped in Falcon tires or whatever. It was like the aqua blue whatever, with a bunch of other spots over top as well. And I talked to one of the guys over there. I can't remember who he was. He was in Pro-Am. And I said, what tires are you running? Because they have to run radials. And he's like, high flies. And I'm like, oh, yeah, you all seem to run high flies. Why don't you pick a better tire and actually do better than each other? And because I thought that was really interesting too, that they didn't actually sift through the radials to find the best one. They just went with high flies, which I think there's better tires. But anyway, and his reply to that was, I don't know, dude, the sponsor just buys it, like whatever. Like I just rock up and drive. And I was like, that's awesome for you. Like he didn't do that. I made that sound very bad, but he wasn't obnoxious about how he said that. But it was like he just you pro-am, you drive okay, but you don't drive spectacular. What? Like, how are you doing this? You know, and so that was the biggest thing that stood out.
So these guys are like fully sponsored as well. So they have
just,
a team and a car. They get a drive.
Yeah, pretty much. I think that bloke in particular he built the car himself. He works in the car himself. He does all that sort of stuff. But the sponsor provides the tires, entry fees, getting it to and from, stuff like that. I believe.
Okay. How much is that worth?
So.
If there's a dollar figure.
Year's worth of tyres. I mean, I don't know, like a lot.
Well,
like,
I don't know how many tyres would they go through, because I haven't been to the event, so I don't know how much tyres. If it was like a DCA weekend, then you could probably, if it's a low power car, then maybe 2 pairs on Mount Gambier, and then if it's a high power, then 8 pairs.
Yeah. Valid question. So keep in mind, all these guys are running like dog boxes, so they're not running standard T28s. Yeah. Right, so they're all running a fair bit of power.
Yeah.
They're doing the same track as D1NZ guys, which the tracks are set up very FD-ish, American-ish style, so more power tracks than anything. So they'd be pumping through tyres. Not as much as semis, admittedly, because you get like 2 laps out of them, but I'd still be bringing 20 to an event, sort of thing, at least 15 maybe, I don't know, something like that. So it's a decent wicket. Wicket. I'm not saying, like, I can't say for sure whether that's common across the whole field, because I don't know. I'm just an observer, but I observed. There was a lot of money there. Put it that way. I observed a lot of money, which I guess leads me. Okay, so that leads me to my next point. Or does it? Anyway, sorry, we'll go on with that. Yeah, there seems to be a lot of money there.
Okay, so do they actually need these cars? Are just built for sponsorship, or are they actually required to run the course?
So I guess okay. So as I said to you before, and I'm very much in agreement with you, EG, about your definition of drifting. And every time I go to events, the way I look at it is it should be based on driver skill. We should set up tracks that are skill orientated, and I feel drivers progress and learn and have a lot more fun and have a lot closer battles as a result of that. I guess, and again, I don't watch too much FD, but the American style doesn't seem to sort of follow that logic as much. They have a lot of inner clips and a lot of situations where it's sort of power and smoke, and I don't know, it's not let's set up a deep outer clip here where you have to throw it to make the distance, or we're trying to slow the lead car down so that the chase cars, can get proximity, because when you have to transition, you obviously have to slow down as a chase car. So if the lead car is on the fastest line, that's not even possible, So the American
You haven't watched FD in a long time.
Me? No, I haven't, and I can't comment. Like, this is all sort of observation. So D1NZ, I have to admit, the track that I went to, which I can't even remember what it was called, some New Zealand word.
Tapuka or
something we probably just sounded really racist.
Look that up.
Did you?
Okay. I think
Did you want to just describe the course anyway? So what it was and what that?
Yeah. So going back to EG's description of drifting in number 6, where he refers to fly zone. So how the course was, it was sort of like 2 Minamis, sort of next to each other. So if you imagine Minami, you sort of go against the wall, you sort of keep a shallower line, and you're sort of gaining speed, and then you throw deep and you sail in, or fly zone sort of thing. So the track consisted of 2 fly zones. So the first corner you had to go late clip and keep a shallow angle, because the distance between 2 clips was very large. So you had to keep shallow angle, gain as much speed as possible, and then off the end of it, throw deep, fly into an outer clip zone. And that was repeated twice, effectively. So the track itself was, in a lot of ways, very Japanesey sort of style, which I actually really liked. It was difficult. A lot of people took a long time to get used to it. Darren Kelly, who ended up winning the event, even in the beginning of qualifying, still looked like he wasn't getting it. But the section in particular I'm talking about, there was like an S-bend, and it was 2 inner clips on the S-bend, and effectively the way they set it up was the fastest possible line. And so I spoke to one of the judges, and I said, I said, if you were going to drive that as fast as possible, how would you drive it? And he said, well, as the course is. And I said, well, exactly. So as a chase car, how have you possibly got an opportunity to transition and stay on door if the lead car's on the fastest possible line? Because you can't go through the other car. When you're a chase car and you're on one side of them, you have to slow down and then speed back up to get back in. You know, it's not possible. But they're also really technical with things like wheel drops and all that sort of stuff too. They're pretty harsh on. So you can't even cut the inside line and drop a wheel off the track to chase.
No, is it a chase car as well? Yep. So chase car can't even drop a wheel in.
No, because they say chase cars should never go beyond B pillar. If you're further up than that, you're too close. And so if you're at B pillar going around a corner of an inner clip, they argue that you should never be able to drop a wheel. But my point with this one is that I said to that judge, I said, so you're rewarding mechanical advantage. Is that what you're saying? And he said, yes. And that blew me away initially because I was like, why would you do that? Like, that's stupid. And they kept on referring to bring a knife to a gunfight and all this other stuff. And I really disliked that because the reason I got into drifting originally, which I potentially should have talked about in my super quick blurb, was that I looked at circuit, I looked at drag racing, and if you go to drag racing, for example, as an extreme, I think if you're driving a funny car or whatever they're called, top fueler, it takes a lot of skill to do that. Don't take away from that. But if you have a 400 kilowatt car versus a 100 kilowatt car, the 400 kilowatt car is always going to be faster every single time. Like, it's irrelevant. More money, you get rewarded for more money for a larger portion of that sport. Drifting, on the other hand, especially if it's run to what I considered correct, you could have a AU Falcon and versus somebody with a 1,000 horsepower car in Mount Gambier, for example, and if you can't drive the 1,000 horsepower car, you're going to lose. So it rewards driver skill over rewarding mechanical advantage, and that's how I've always been in drifting. That's how I think all comps should be run, because you shouldn't be able to buy your way to the top effectively. So when the judge said to me, we reward mechanical advantage, I was like, that's stupid. Like, this is crap. I'm not staying here. Like, this is like obviously I did, but I'm like, I didn't like that answer. And it's fascinating because I've thought about it after the fact. And actually the track seemed to work well. It didn't work like we expected, and people could still dive in because of that whole fly zone. So it sort of worked okay. But I thought about it after the fact, and Greg, you, I think it was you who pointed out, they said, well, why are they building these cars? Why are they spending hundreds of thousands of dollars? Is it just for sponsors or not? And when you have a judge set up a track that has a component that awards mechanical advantage, I feel it pushes people to continually push their cars to the limit, because there's going to be sections where that will advantage you. Like, that will be an advantage.
That track, for me, when I looked at the pictures of it originally, I thought it was sort of on the same scale as like a QR or an Eastern Creek sort of thing, but it actually ended up being a lot smaller than I thought it was going to be.
Maddie was in fourth the whole time, put it that way.
Yeah, long drift, yeah, but the gearing is sort of irrelevant. I actually listened to Maximum Driftcast a little bit today, and listening to them speak to Odie, and he was talking about the reason for big power is now so you can grab another gear, because when you have more wheel speed, if you need to drop some wheel speed down, you tend to make less corrections. And I actually found that very interesting as somebody who... Yeah, because it means the car doesn't want to grip up as quickly because you've got more wheel speed to play with.
Yeah, so wheel speed higher.
Yeah. And I found that interesting because I'm somebody who loves... I don't like baking. I prefer to sort of only keep my car on the edge of the wheel speed that I need to get along the ground, and I found it very interesting. And I guess that track, for me, going back to your point about the big power, I think even for that track, didn't look like you didn't need 1,200 horsepower. You know, even 800 horsepower there is overkill.
For most of it, but keep in mind, like, this track in particular, I'm not using as even though I am, but I don't mean to use it as a specific example. I'm talking
No. Yeah,
You know?
no,
And,
for sure.
and in answer
sure.
in answer to what you just said about using only enough tires, only enough wheel speed to get across the track, you got to stop that. That's crap. Like, you want to be like flat out everywhere. Like, really, you're there to impress people.
I was breaking too many.
You can do the same angle with 40% throttle, 100% throttle. You need to be at 100% throttle, you know. But anyway, irrelevant of that. Where are you? Down there. Anyway, but I guess my point with that was I never liked the idea of mechanical advantage, but if it pushes people to build sick cars that crowds go and look at because they're a sick car to look at, because even I was running around going, oh my god, look at all these cool cars, and like whatever, then is that pushing the sport in the right direction? Well, and I don't know. That's a debatable topic.
Kind of agree with you to a point. Yep. I think it should be what would you call it? So a level that includes your driving ability. So you shouldn't have one exceed the other. So if your ability to drive is an ability of your car, then what are you doing there? Like, you're exploring.
Yeah, sure.
But if you're one of the guys that are interested in comps, then it's not just only your skill as a driver. It's your car, your skill to promote yourself, and your ability to get whatever you need to actually get you to the event. So that includes sponsorship. So you also have to, as a driver, be sponsorable, or whatever that would be. Whatever that word is. So you need to be able to write, or however you approach your sponsors, you need to be able to do that.
Sell yourself.
Yeah. And you need to market yourself on social media or wherever, and that's all included if you want to be a comp driver. So it's not something that's I don't think you can do these days. Just walk in and say, "Yeah, I'm a comp driver." That's it. That's It's
I agree. Yeah.
So
and I sorry, go on.
No, that's all right. You go.
Yeah, no, and I think that's exactly right. Like, and I think there might have been a few drivers over there that had huge cars, but might not have had, in my opinion, the skill to sort of back it up. But in general, the top 20 or whatever, or the top 16, they had a lot of skill too. So it wasn't just like, oh, I've walked in on, got this sick drift car, I've spent all this money, whatever, got all these sponsors, and sucked, but still got the recognition that they should have. It wasn't like that. It was because everybody had that sort of level of car. It then came down to driver skill. So if you have a bunch of no cars, or you've got a mixed group where you've got some guy who has a really awesome car and Stankowski, and the Stankowski will beat him because he's a better driver, and it sort of gives that whole underdog impression or whatever. Over there, they all had cool cars. So the thing that separated them was their skill, which is how it should be. Skill should separate them, not how cool their car is.
Yeah, but then
they all have the same level.
But then you have a section where mechanical advantage plays a part in, I guess, the judging. Then, so that's kind of opposite to what you were saying.
It is. But at the same, it is. But then, see, like, and I said this to Matty as well, that I still feel that the way, especially at that track, so being specific to this track now, like Calder for DCA, the way the DCA runs Calder, like Gambia, there's a certain line you have to take. If you don't take that line, you don't get it. And this track in New Zealand, whatever it was called, was exactly like that. There was a particular line. You had to late apex the first one. You had to shallow angle that corner to make the distance into the second one in one movement without a big handbrake correct. You then had to stay wide and shallow angle the next two corners. Like, I think that's why I looked at it, and it was very DCA in a lot of ways. Like, you look at DCA at Calder when I think it was Chelsea Denofa and Matt Field came over, and I think you had the top 4 or 5 drivers scored in the 80s, 90s, and then there was this huge gap, and then the rest of the fields was in the 50s, 60s, 40s. And I think that's cool because it's challenging people continuously. This track was sort of like that. It was challenging people. There was a big gap. You could see people struggling. So even though there was a benefit for mechanical advantage, there was still a bigger benefit for a good driver. But then when you have somebody like, I don't know, Cole versus Gaz Water, for example, Cole Armstrong versus Gaz Water, or whatever, and they've both got relatively cool cars, and it then would come down to more driver skill, in which case they're both pretty similar anyway. But I think it's yes, I know what you're saying, EG, but it's like different levels, you know. But, so even though it's still rewarded driver skill more so, if you both had good drivers, then it might then step back and go, okay, so we couldn't pick him on that, but his car performed better here, let's say. And I feel.
But I guess also they're not judging you off dyno sheets. So at the end of the day, if you can't string a lap, you can't string a lap. Even if you've got the most horsepower car or the most reliable 2,000 horsepower car there, if you can't put a lap together, you ain't going to win. It's as simple as that.
On that topic as well, I personally, I looked at that, and I personally don't think you need anywhere near the power people think you need. I think you go over 400 kilowatts and be more than competitive. You don't need any more power than that. It comes down to driver setup. I mean, car setup. And
this is the FD effect though, where people think that every series in the world is running a similar tire rule to FD, but D1NZ is restricted to a 265. I'm pretty sure across the board. Doesn't matter if you're driving an Abrams tank or a MX-5, you can only run up to a 265 wide tire, and I think people forget that. Like, you can only, and you've got to get through 3 laps there. Is it? Do they run are they on a Mar, or are they a full one more time? No, they're full one more time.
Yeah.
With a tire change, or are they? You got to get through 4 runs. I think you're 4 runs on a pair of tires.
I wasn't there with the tire dudes. I was just watching the track. Yeah.
You should know this as the spotter, mate.
Possibly, I know. Yeah. Yeah, as I said, I'm getting it, you know.
This is all your factors that come into this. So your cars from FD are still totally different to what you need to run in a D1NZ. FD, you're talking, S14s, S15s running 295 40s or 45 tires, 18. So
that now?
No, you can if you go up in weight class, but but even a 295 in like 40 or 45 profile is a fat tire. Like if you're talking normal 18, you're talking down to a 35 or a 30 for a 295, but they're running big profile. And again, you do need some of those that big horsepower to keep that wheel speed up on those massive thick tires. But we're talking guys running 265, 35s in 18. So. Yeah, like there is a cap there. Any more than I would say, your 650 to 800 horsepower over in New Zealand is way more than enough. Going back to one of your points about the sort of the AU Falcon thing is over there they still have similar things happen. There's a dude who competes or was competing in Pro Street in a NA MX-5 or just a MX and I guess an NA MX-5, but I think it just had a small turbo on it. The original MX-5, and he was doing Buddy Pukekohe, top of 4th gear or whatever, and making it around that corner. But again, from a Pro Series point of view, that's not ideal, because when you are trying to sell it to sponsors, if they haven't watched the series religiously, if you were trying to sell that to them saying, "Oh, this is the pinnacle," they're going to laugh at you.
Well, actually, on that topic, because I'll use an actual example from the event, there was a guy driving a 86, and he was my favorite dude there. And apparently he has some other bigger car, but I can't remember his backstory. But it was a Silvertop 4A with turbo, and he did by far the best one of the whole weekend. He absolutely killed it. And I think that's example in itself. Like, even though they are pushing for these better and better cars and all that sort of stuff.
But what level was he competing at?
Throw down this sick... Sorry?
What level was he competing at?
Pro.
He was competing in Pro.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah, that's my point. Like, you can still pull something out of the bag if you've got the skill and the balls, potentially, in this case, to do it. So...
Well-presented car looks like a race car, all that sort of stuff?
It was still well presented. It didn't have as many stickers, but it was still well presented car, and I guess that was the bare minimum there. So
I think that's probably probably partly what's because I think didn't ADGP or somebody put some rules in place originally where the car had to look race car to be allowed to enter because that's what the product that they were trying to sell and that sort of thing, or is that high tech originally?
I know high tech.
No, I don't remember ADGP.
Bumpers and stuff.
Yeah, of course. Even DCA now is expectation that you start the event with front and rear bumpers on.
That. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Well, and the King of Europe stuff and King of Nations stuff, even if you lose the bar, you're expected to repair it and get it back on the car in some way, shape, or form for every single run after that.
That's why they have so many spares. So we're back. I think I had problems with my mobile. It must be starting. It happens when it's cloudy here, and for some reason I lose internet. So, or it rains. When it rains, it's really bad as well. So anyway, we're back to continue on with Blake, and I think this is a discussion about the comparison between New Zealand and Australian drifting, kind of.
Well, I guess a lot of people are screaming out for Australia to have a series similar to a D1NZ, but
are they?
Well, I guess because people sort of cried when Drift Australia went away. They cried when ADGP sort of started to go under, and then they all had a bit of a whinge when High Tech sort of announced that it wasn't going to happen. But I'm still not convinced that we have enough people here who want to put in enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, want to put in enough, either enough work to get enough backing to run a series like it, or want to invest enough of their own money to want to run a series like it.
And it's a shame because I feel every motorsport needs that premier level event. You know, they need that, like we have like Formula One, you know, or we've got V8 supercars, I guess, in this country or whatever. And you need that. Irrelevant of whether you want to go out and be a Formula One driver or you want to go and drive V8s, like I feel you need that premier level event. And I feel we have a bunch of events in Australia that could end up there, but are not there quite yet.
But what is your definition of premier event? Like what makes an event the premier event?
Or
honestly,
if you're referencing New Zealand drifting anyway, then
just in general.
Okay.
I'm going to use
D1NZ.
Like I went over to D1NZ not really watching it, but not thinking I was going to enjoy it. Like being a Jap style, being an underdog supporter sort of thing. I went over there being like, man, whatever, like this, we'll see what it's like. And I really enjoyed it. I thought, and I do want to touch on the atmosphere there as well when we get to it, but it was like, how did Matty describe it? Getting recognition like you would expect at that level of an event, I guess, is how he described that. And I tend to agree with him exactly after seeing it firsthand. Like,
so is that recognition from the organisers or the spectators or sponsors?
It's not an ego-driven thing. Even though that's sort of maybe what it sounds like, that's not what I'm getting at. It's more, you know, people support people follow people, and I guess this comes back to I think what you guys were talking about in episode 1 or 2. You know, people want to know the stories, people want to know the backgrounds. Like a footy team, people support certain teams. It's like V8s, people support certain drivers. You know, it's something that people want to watch every round religiously, or people will travel to go and watch it. Or it's not just like, Victor's on this weekend. Oh, yeah, man, I got a barbecue, so I'm not going to go. Or, you know, people actually go out of their way to go and support something. And I don't think it's like that in drifting in Australia. Nobody does anything to support anything. Like,
but I guess you've personally driven in Australia's premier drift event, which is the drifting at World Time Attack Challenge. Did you feel any of that sort of stuff at all? Or I guess the fact that you were dropping shit down your motor probably didn't help. But
but you did. No, you did. No, and you know, it was like that. It definitely was like that. The World Time Attack vibe was that this might be interesting. Or might be, I don't know. See, it's because Greg, your past being an elite athlete at a sport which is recognized as an elite sport, being the Olympics. You know, for us, you could drive in the top tier of, the top tier, saying a national level sort of thing in drifting in Australia, and you'll be like, how to say it? If somebody's, it's not an ego-driven thing. It's hard to describe, but does anybody know where I'm getting at here that can articulate this better for me?
No, I'm not really.
You're not going to your Tinder date. Oh man, I drive DCA. Like, it's friggin', where at time attack, I guess you did feel a bit like more of an elite athlete at time attack than other events. Like you felt like people are there to watch, people are there to see you, so therefore I should put on a better show. There's more pressure. Like, I want to not disappoint people. Like, people are they're not going to their barbecues or their Tinder dates because they want to come and watch time attack. So I therefore need to drive harder than I've ever driven, or better than I've ever driven, or more on the line sort of thing. And I guess it's that atmosphere. So yes, time attack was. Do I love the format of time attack? Do I love the way it's run? Do I love the layout? I mean, it's up and down. It's got improvements it can make, I think, but it did have that aspect, which I think. I mean, you got to be. I think anybody, if they said to you, "Do you want to go?" Oh, not anybody, but I think a lot of people who are into sport and work really, really hard to be good at it like some form of recognition for their efforts, I guess. And something to follow. I don't know. I think I blurred off multiple points there, but anyway, yeah.
But yeah, I guess what we sort of, it keeps coming back to this cultural thing. There's, I guess a lot of people I know through drifting have this thing of, I'm building this sick car. My plan is to get into World Time Attack this year, and it's sort of like. What? It's like, yeah, cool. Like, dude, you're building a sick car, but I haven't ever seen you compete, or, you've never done anything special where, I guess I look at you in the reverse role of your car's, average.
Not stock, but it's basic.
It's a basic car and fairly average look because it's still in gel coat white and
thousand shades of white, all right?
And the pewter roof still. And
hey, I painted the very small gap that was between the body panel that went down and the roof, so at least looked like it was meant to be two-tone. Okay.
Yeah.
That was the effort that I put in for that event, which is nothing because I'm an idiot. But anyway.
But again, you made it in off driving merit.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And this is, I think a lot of people tend to get way too blurred between. Do I want to be a good driver? Do I want a good car? No, you need at least a decent package. And yeah, as much as I'm giving you grief about the fact that your car looks fairly rubbish, in photos it comes up okay. And
but you're 100% correct. They shouldn't be mutually exclusive, though.
Yeah,
anybody
exactly.
who's a good driver should strive to have a good car because it's only in their best interests. And I guess that's the thing I realised about it more than anything. Yeah, I might have been lucky enough that I got to time attack on my driving merit, but what did I do about that? I wasted it. I didn't do a good job of that.
Yeah, but that's a lesson learned for you, and trust me, through sport, I've learned a lot of those lessons throughout the years. But your car wasn't an AU Falcon or something like that. You did have a presentable car. Could have it been better presented? Yeah, of course. Does that mean it needed sponsors down the side? Definitely not. No, it's fine. It's fine the way it is. It just could have been that little bit better. But again, I just think that and I keep going back to it, that New Zealand's got that culture where it's sort of been instilled, and if you expect to play on that field, the expectation is you dress up properly to play on that field, where here we're still finding our feet to get that back again because we aren't getting the entry numbers that we need to be exclusive and tell people to, like, hey, your car's your car's a piece of crap, piss off. No, well, we need those numbers to actually make the events happen, and
so I guess
that is part of the problem.
I guess on that point, going back to what AG said before, I am putting the onus then on the drivers. You shouldn't be forced to do a well-presented car. You should, and it's not even just the car; it's everything. And I guess that was the learning that I got from people like Ben Jenkins, is that it's not a lot of money or effort to do that. And people.
How often do you wear a race suit, Blake?
You?
Now, how often do you wear a race suit?
I don't even own one. But I've spent this whole night telling you all the things that's wrong with me. I'm not denying that. But you look at I see like emergence of it though. You look at Team Madhouse, like they're a good example. Like they're really picking up their game in regards to car presentation, and I think it looks good. Like it's especially when they're driving together. I think that's a really cool thing to look at. And people like, I can't remember. I think it was Gambia a few years ago. There was like some barbershop that had two S13s. They're like a grey colour that looked the same.
Yeah, the cutthroat guys.
Remember them?
Yeah. Yeah, they came up with shoulders. I think.
Yeah, I think they were.
Yeah, so
that looked cool. Like I don't.
Greg's getting a bit tired. He's been hiding yawns all night. Keep going.
I think out of all of it, like that, the biggest takeaway I got, and I keep referring to Ben Jenkins because of this exact reason. It's not a whole heap of money or effort to bring your car to that from where we are now. It's not a big jump. And if more of us do that jump, then maybe it'll change the image in a sport in a positive way where more of those people can get more money into the sport and therefore afford to be able to do more different things. And I guess that's where I'm coming at with this whole New Zealand thing, is that from where we are right now to where we could be isn't as big as what maybe everybody thinks it is. And people are like, Australia's not like that. We're an underdog. We don't want to do that, all that sort of stuff. And I'm saying, well, maybe it's not that.
I don't think it's the step that's needed. I think people are just saying, I don't want to do it because either I'm too lazy, or if I don't need to do it, then I won't do it. So because it's not a requirement. If we made races a requirement, then so many people are going to complain. They're not going to enter. It's like, why do I need a race to enter because I didn't have to do it before? So I think it's attitude.
But that's where I guess what's his name? Greg. That dude. Greg was saying before is that as a promoter, as an event runner, we haven't got the entrance. We can't be exclusive like that because people, But I wear overalls. That's sort of
you've started wearing overalls.
I wore it to 2 events. Not the last one because I lost it. I don't know where it is, but anyway, I would have.
And you said you started in when? 2009.
I started driving in 2009.
Yeah,
drifting.
when was your first? Yeah, but this is what I mean though.
My first competition rally. Like, come on.
I understand that.
My flannels on that one.
you gotta fit into the scene.
I judge rally, by the way, but anyway. That's a whole different story.
But I guess if staying on this sort of topic, if you look at a series like a DCA that is taken seriously by some and then not seriously by others. So you get people like your Matt Harveys and Dale campaigns, and I guess myself, I try and show up and look as professional as I can. And then you have others who sort of treat it like it's a little bit more of a bit of a slap fest. But then you've also got guys from all over the country who basically say, one of the higher level guys in the country, if rumors are true, wanted to enter Mount Gambier, but his sponsors wouldn't let him risk the car at the event. Now, that's again it becomes a cultural problem that it's become that people expect that no, DCA is this crash fest. Yet you've got these few dudes in the series who are trying to be super professional, looking super clean. But the reason they're driving DCA is the variety of tracks, the support from the event organizers, and the fact that running 235. The restricted tire series is less wear and tear on the cars, cheaper on your pocket, and provides a better competition. Plus, there's the ability to, if you finish top 3 in the series, you get to go overseas and drive a funded drive.
Yeah. Well, can I expand on that though? I think Dale Campaign's a good example. I think the first event he ever drove at DCA was Gambia the first year, EG. I don't know if you remember. I don't think he even qualified. Pretty sure he didn't qualify. Pretty sure he qualified like 50th or something. You remember that?
Yeah, I remember he didn't do well compared to every other year.
Yeah.
But I can't remember if that was his first one because I kind of have a recollection of him at Calder before.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure.
Well, I can't really remember too much. Like, I personally believe that DCA pushes drivers really hard, and I think people who drive, and I haven't entered every comp. Like, I haven't entered Victory, so I can't comment on top of that. But I can only comment on the events that I drive. But I feel that it allows drivers to develop quite quickly because it has a very driver focus, which I think is fantastic. But from Dale Campaign, I remember talking to him because he then continued from then on. He was always doing events, and I talked to him about it, and he's like, I had the best fun. It was heaps chilled. We got smashed in the after party or whatever, but it was interaction between drivers, how they've got their gentleman rule off the start line. Everybody's there to support each other. So I think another reason people do them sort of comps is the atmosphere, the social side of it too. And I think DCA does it really well. And I think D1NZ does it really well. I think that's the other thing I took away from D1NZ was that the drivers were all heaps chilled out, heaps cool. Like, we were at the pub every night. They had a big after party afterwards where everybody just had a lot of time, had a lot of fun, we'll say. But like, you look at the end, like Darren Kelly, it was Darren Kelly and Cole Armstrong, I believe, in the final. Darren Kelly only brought one team member. Cole Armstrong's guys were changing Darren Kelly's wheels and changing his tires and stuff, like helping him out. Like, it's that sort of camaraderie attitude between the guys that I think is 100% needed in comps. And DCA does it really well from my experience driving there. It's like going and hanging out with your second family sort of thing. And I feel D1NZ does it really well as well. And so I wonder if that's another aspect of comps that make a good comp too, is that whole...
Well, you have to want to go there. Like, it's any competition, and I think this is an episode I'd like to do at some stage where we do a bit of maths on basically the economics of drifting, and you've got to have a reason to want to go. Yeah, but you got to have a reason to want to go, and I guess one of my big reasons for wanting to do as much DCA as possible is I just love the DCA family sort of feel, and I enjoy that, and that's got to be part of the reason that you're busting your ass spending into well into the 5 to 6 figures in building race cars, spending money on all these events, and then spending countless unpaid hours prepping cars and chasing sponsorship. So, but I guess here lays my question is, do you think within somewhere like Australia to go to a D1NZ level, you let something like a DCA sort of slowly progress its way forward, that it ends up with a 2-tier system like a D1NZ, or is there place for, a series like High Tech? Like, is Australia still in a position that a series like, do you feel like High Tech is something that enough people would jump into from what you've seen in New Zealand, or do you think we don't have the numbers and DCA organically sort of getting to that point with the guys getting more and more professional and slowly building that I guess potential of getting higher budgets with sponsors because they're sort of easing their way into the race community?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough one because D1NZ to me is an amalgamation of both High Tech and DCA. You've got the professionalism, we'll say, of High Tech in a way, like the FIA, I guess, and everybody running the pro cars with the driving style / driver development / party cool attitude of DCA. Like, it needs to be both. And do I think one can evolve into that amalgamation of two? Yeah, of course. They both could. Whether that's a event organizer action or whether it's a community / driver action, I don't know what the answer is. Like,
Well, I
which
guess
answer is going to get you there? I don't know.
I would it definitely would have to come from both, because at the end of the day, yeah, as you keep saying, like a lot of the onus really does have to be put back on the drivers. If you're expecting money or people to want to show up to the events and stuff, yeah, you've got to show up and look clean. George and the organisers from High Tech, or Luke from DCA, or the guys running, I guess you guys running Rally or whatever, can't be like, hey, like we've sent you 5 litres of paint so you can paint your cars before the event. Like, that's never going to happen. You've got to get your own. Get your own shit together.
And I guess that's a good point. And I guess for me, who's been, I guess, around drifting in some sort of capacity for a little while now, it was an eye-opener. It was like an epiphany moment in some ways, and it's changed my opinion on a lot of things. And I think a lot of people know that I wasn't a massive supporter of high tech. It didn't suit me. I didn't ever think it was bad. It just wasn't for me. But now, looking back on it, I'm like, yeah, I can see what George was trying to do in some ways. And I don't have the backstory. I know a lot of other people have a lot more backstory to that, and I don't know what that is exactly, and I don't really care. It's nothing to do with me. But I think in some ways, just not education, but like when people find out things, having that conversation, and if somebody else finds out a different thing, and like, because I didn't really understand all this as well as, or like I do now, let's say, a year or so ago. And so I guess when, let's say with DCA, Luke introduced it can't be a missile rule, okay? And when I first came out, I was a bit like, oh yeah, well, it sort of makes sense, I guess. Like, whatever, I don't really have a missile anyway, so it doesn't matter. But people might have been like, oh, that's crap. Like, I've got my Stewie, Laurel, whatever. I know they don't get on great, but it's irrelevant. But, and I often wonder, well, now looking back on it, I can understand why Luke made those decisions, and I understand why he pushed the comp in that direction. Maybe just ongoing education to the community about why people make decisions and what needs to happen and what that means to people as they happen. And like, you see this in industry all the time. Like, you see bosses in industry and they'll have like a State of the Nations or whatever, and they'll be like, we're going to do this and this and whatever, but nobody ever explains why we do things. And I always think that in industry, like as a good manager, explaining an end goal quickly, you don't want to sit there and tell everybody everything all the time, but explaining an end goal can result in better workforce moving towards that direction, and potentially in drifting it's exactly the same.
Yeah, but I guess in some ways also, I think some of the expectation just has to be a little bit more organic. Like Logan in the Datto, who did that round of DCA and did Super Drift last year, originally started not showing up in a race suit, and basically based off the fact of me giving him a little bit of crap about it and wanting to look more professional, no requirements in either series to wear a race suit, started wearing a race suit.
I don't know if that's as organic as you think it is due to your influence on it.
Yeah, 100%. But again, it hasn't come from. But it hasn't come from an event organizer. It's come through, us. Us as a community being a little bit more like, hey, I have expectations of where I would like to take it. Hey, like maybe if we all get on the same page, we can take it there, and just using what's already there as a platform to actually get ourselves organized enough to be able to use that platform the way we want to use it. Because I guess we keep getting given these platforms and people seem to enjoy really shitting and pissing all over these platforms and then don't want to clean it up after they're done with it.
Yeah. And look, I agree with that completely. I may have said that in a way where it's all up to the event organizers. But no, 100%. I think it's just more education education is not the right word, but just open communication about why we're doing things and why things are happening and how things can benefit people where they might not think it can benefit them.
But I don't think things as simple as a race suit. There needs to be.
I think that stuff has been explained in DCA.
But I don't even think that stuff even needs an explanation. Like,
it doesn't, but people still like you said, they require it. They need communication. But I think if you're missing one of the things is that even when they are communicated, why aren't they doing it?
But I think if then,
good point.
but it should be as simple as, if those rules start to come in place. Like, I think for me, if you're going to make major changes or changes that are going to cost people a significant amount of money, and I think buying a race suit, if you're going to buy a 3-layer, is a significant outlay for most people, that you give a 12-month lead-in period. Hey, this is the last season that we're going to allow people to wear.
I know guys that don't want to spend money on a 1-layer race suit that costs $80 from China.
They're
just like, nah, I'm not going to. If you do that, then that's it. I'm out of the series, and like that means one less entrant for. So what do you do?
Yeah,
and then how do you change that attitude?
But as I brought that up earlier, that one person going out might bring 3 more in because other people are like, nah, my sponsors don't want me driving there because it's not taken serious enough.
But it needs to be a very personalized. It's just so stupid. But I don't even know how this is possible. But it needs to be a much more personalized approach. How you do that, I don't even know.
That stuff does happen in Australian drifting. You have to. So it is.
Be personally invited to events or whatever.
There's a lot of one-to-one from organisers to entrants for certain people, because that's what they want. They really want to have that feeling
to feel wanted.
Yeah. And then there is that personal interaction, it's good, but it's also, you shouldn't need to do that. It's like, if you deserve it, then you shouldn't. Yeah, but you shouldn't make it a requirement on yourself to say, I'm not going to enter this event until I get a personal invite. That's just, I don't know how you're going to get over that attitude.
How do you even get into human nature in general? Because we had multiple conversations on that. But
but as I said, I think reasonable amount of time for changes like that should mean that you can't really have a whinge because it's not sprung on you. If the dates have been released for a series but sub-regs haven't come out, and then 6 weeks before the event when sub-regs come out with entries, all of a sudden it's like, shit, you're telling me I have to wear race boots, race shoes, race gloves, a race suit, and potentially a Hans device. Oh no, that's $2,000 in gear that I can't afford. That's me out. But if you give people that 12-month lead in of, hey, look, we're doing it not because our insurance expects it, but because we're wanting to make the series more professional, make it safer for our drivers, so that moving forward, we are building this culture, then it is what it is, really. And I guess if
okay, I'll show you another example about that change. So one change that's probably happening pretty commonly around the country is a requirement to have half cages, at least for drifting. Now, if you take your street car, then you need to put a half cage in that, and that's something that I guess the Transport Authority or the police don't like. So that could potentially be your car is illegal on the road, you void insurance or whatever, just because of this requirement to have a cage. So that puts those sorts of people out. And there's people with actual road cars that enter events and they compete. Brody's car was actually a registered car as well, even though it was a bit more modified than a standard modified car. But how do you put those type of rules in? Like, you give them, next year we're going to do roll cages, half cages mandatory, but it means that you're going to have to get the cage. Probably, if you either need to get an engineering certificate, if it's possible in your state or territory. If it's not, then you need to get a tow car, a trailer.
But I guess
that changes the $600 cage to.
But this is totally outside of what we're talking about. We're talking about.
But a cage is professional, because if you look at a car with a cage.
But we're talking national level series here. If you're showing up with a road registered car or whatever to that event and expecting that one day you'll be sponsored and have millions of followers and all this sort of stuff, you're not going to do it in your street car. Like, reality is that's not going to happen for you. If you're not willing to put some money and invest some energy into it, and then even on the back of that too, when we ran Super Drift last year under AASA, they're the ones requiring the cage. That's not even an event promoter going, oh, we want to run cages. That's that's the insurance. The event won't happen if people aren't running that because they just won't cover the event. So
yeah, but see, in my opinion though, we need to focus more on the items that are going to give us the most bang for buck. And a guy, I can only use myself for an example because I can only see it from my perspective. If I go to a sponsor and go, this is my run on Gambia, whatever, following Stankowski, okay. I've been doing a bad one. He goes, oh, it's an AF, what the hell? But at the same time, I might not have been following somebody else, and he's not going to go, oh, he doesn't have a hands device. All right? Like, we need to focus on the things that are going to get biggest bang for buck. And biggest bang for buck at this stage is not necessarily, and I know we're talking about professionalizing or making it seem more professional so that professional drivers come or whatever, but we also need to focus on, like, even if you just take the current drivers, like, in my opinion, the current drivers in DCA are ridiculous as far as skills going now. You look at not Cash Kings, the DCA before that at Archie, like in the raining event, the top 32 was that was crazy. How close they were all driving. It's like not necessarily they all need hands devices, which is going to cost them X amount of money. It's like, well, how about you just get a sticker cutter and put some stickers on and like do something cool. Like do something like people aren't going to follow you because you've got a hands device. People are going to follow you because you gravy carriage and all your cars look badass. Like I get what you're saying, Greg, and to a point I completely agree, but I feel we need to concentrate on the biggest bang for buck items first.
Before
we get to that.
I was using more of them as an example of when you're implementing changes to give a decent amount of lead-in period so that people will it's not a shock to the system, especially if it is things like those that do cost you are a decent investment from your own pocket. So that's why I was using those as an example. I'm not saying you should buy a Hans device before you paint your car one color. Like that's really stupid.
Just being clear on that topic, but for sure.
Although Hans device probably isn't a bad idea before you paint your car, but depends on how good you are.
It depends on how what your objectives are. Some people are just loose with that,
so
which is good, but anyway.
Yeah. So I guess as confusing as this this topic is, but it really starts to come down to what the scene will always be dictated around what the majority wants, or the majority is willing, what the majority is willing to do, and I guess even if you're not, if you're a team that's sponsored, say like your Madhouse guys or I guess a Dale campaign, throwing out helpful hints to the other guys who are struggling to find that sponsorship or do that sort of stuff. People need to go and ask those guys questions. If they deem those guys as approachable, go and ask them and say, what did you do to pick up that sponsorship? And like you did over in New Zealand with the Jenkins guys and find out how much work's actually being done, because most people sit and think that, hey, I'll put together this 5-minute clip, send it to a few people, and bang, there's $50,000 for my season. It's going to be sick. It just doesn't happen like that. And,
but they have that attitude here though, because I was at I'm going to say a street light inspection, and this random guy comes along, and he sort of does a number of street light inspections, and then he's like, I'm ready to get a drive, and I don't even know who you like me. I know most of the people that do street light inspections around here, and if I don't even know who this guy is, then why do you think in your mind that you're going to get a sponsored drive somewhere, and why are you asking me who these people are?
Yeah, your internet just went a bit funny, EG.
Did it? Okay. Did you hear?
Yeah, it's way too cloudy. No, not really.
Sort of.
Oh, okay.
All good. So I guess and I get your point on that. It is totally. Yeah, I guess we could go for hours and days on this topic, but
you're looking.
I guess
so.
I guess to summarize that, can we? Let's just.
Yeah, we can.
Let's just summarize it into 2 points.
Okay.
Yeah,
go ahead.
To me, it's like one thing. The biggest 2 takeaways I took away from it was, I guess, in regards to
Greg's
educating.
He's falling asleep.
Is that Greg?
I am, but not from Blake's talking. It's 11 o'clock at night, and I've been up since 5 o'clock. So.
Yeah, Yeah, okay.
Be a little bit more professional, Greg, with what you're doing right now.
Sorry.
If you could hold yourself together. Is that firstly, it's potentially not as big of a jump as what we think it is, and secondly, for what Greg was saying about chasing your campaigns and asking them what they're doing and why they're getting sponsors and all that, the education is moving back to say it's by doing these smaller, big bang for buck jumps, and then all of us doing it together and bringing the whole level up to, because I mean, ultimately the bottom line, and I guess this is for everybody, as much as I wish I could go drifting every second weekend and not have to do anything for anybody and just do it for me, I can't afford that. I don't think many people can afford that. And so if I can get a sponsor that will pay for that so that I can go and build cool cars and drift as much as possible, and all you guys that I'm friends with or all you guys who I drive with can do exactly the same thing, that's a win for everybody. That's a win for the sport. That's a win for the individuals. And that's a big takeaway I took away from it, I guess.
But I guess the main thing with that too is if that's what you want out of it, which is what a lot of people want out of it, you have to do it yourself. Like,
yes. Sure.
Literally, like, people have to get off their ass and do it if that's what they want. Like, for me, I turned down a sponsorship deal this year because it just wasn't going to work in for what my plans were for the year. Like, it is what it is. Like, I ended my sponsorship for the year because, it just didn't work in with what my plans were. And when you do take on those sort of deals, you have to work in with their plans. It's not the way you want to do it. So I think that's what people have to understand is if you want it, you have to work for it, and then you have to keep it going, or else you'll say goodbye to it. You'll get a reputation and you just won't have it anymore. And that's, I guess, if you look at the D1NZ thing, most of those guys have long-term relationships with those sponsors. They're not changing sponsors year to year.
Yes, definitely. I think it's a big one. And like, I think the other thing as well, because some people look at the sponsorship whole thing and that as a bit of a sellout from drifting. You know, it's like, it's meant to be about fun and all that. To me, I just want to drive more, and this is the way of driving more. And everybody can do that. If we're all driving more, and that's sort of what it is for D1NZ from my perspective. It's just a bunch of dudes who want to drive, but they can buy full sequentials and travel all the way around the country burning semis off non-stop because they've got backing. They're exactly the same, except they've done a couple steps that they might not have wanted to do to get to that point.
And the reason why they've got backing, you believe, is that they're being more actually professional when it comes to everything.
It would appear that way.
Yeah, so it's not just their driving or their car or marketing. It's all inclusive.
It's all the package, because I don't think if you were to just judge them off the amount of sponsorship they get, their driving's not that much better to support the sponsorship, if you know what I mean. There's plenty of drivers in Australia who are just as good, but it's the rest of the package that makes them. And it's a collective. It's not like one or two or three people, because we have one or two or three people in Australia doing it, but not everybody's doing it. It's like, for us to get to D1NZ level, and I'm still saying it's not perfect either, because there's things that I still think Australia does better, everybody needs to move together, if that makes sense, which I don't even know if that's possible. But
Again, you're talking culture. As soon as the culture changes, exactly. and it becomes if that culture changes and that culture moves, there's a good chance. Like, you might leave one or two people behind, but at the end of the day, if it's for the greater good and people moving forward, it is, it's just better in general for the scene. If that's what people want to do, there will always be those lower level comps that you can go and do, all those grassroots style events like your Bring the Bash or your Matsuris. So,
which is cool in itself. Like, I reckon they're really cool things. So you need all of it.
Yeah, 100%. But you're talking, you can dictate your budget. You're not having to spend a whole lot of money on tires, because you can drive a handful of laps if that's all you want to drive and do all that sort of stuff. So, but it's still
applicable. That's just a really good point. It's still applicable to them level things. You look at Gravy Garage and QR Matsuri.
100%.
It's not a completely independent thing. It's a whole culture thing.
And even the Curse Sundays guys now, they're all rocking the same sort of style. Not all of them, but they're starting to do that, I think. And Revolution as well. Don't forget about those guys and their red cars. I think
they've just got all 5 kits, don't they?
Yeah. So
And you see the common thing, just a quick one there, the common thing between all of them, when you look at all the guys who everybody's like, man, I wish I had
those quick things.
Yeah, but like, I wish I was like those guys. Well, let's look towards those guys and see what they're doing, and then let's not copy it, but learn. You're in
a team. You're in a team. You're a special person, and you're all going to paint it the same color, except you only bought enough paint to paint one car.
Yeah, it's because my team sucks. Like, no, they don't. But they're buying houses, they're having kids, they're getting married, they're doing all that crap. They're all Jasons. Mate,
I'm Chaz Michael. Michael's the lone wolf, so that's me. That's me right there, mate. Blades of Glory all day.
They're cool. But no, it's a good point. You do raise a good point. Our team's lazy as hell, so I don't know. And I'm one of them, and I'm just as lazy. So what's that saying?
All right. So I think we're a couple
Greg's going
2 hours into this.
Yeah, I think we're about 2 hours. I didn't actually check to see what time we started.
Yeah.
But I know you're sleepy because you're having trouble keeping awake and you're yawning like crazy because I can see even with your mouth closed. And Blake will not stop talking about this subject, I'm pretty sure, until the sun rises.
Blake's also got to fly to Europe tomorrow, so...
Oh, okay.
Stop talking about any subject. Let's just talk about anything. We'll go for another 6 hours. Like,
yeah. Well, yeah.
I remember the time when we stopped at the car park.
Punch kick.
And I remember we stopped at the car park once, and then we sat there talking. It was only meant to be a quick stop. We sat there talking for about 2 hours, and then we moved on again.
Yeah. Well, it's all interesting. I don't know. I get carried away. Anyway.
No, I think Blake's going to be somebody we definitely have back on here. I'm sure we're going to get.
It'll be all right. We don't need it.
We don't have time for that.
I think getting Blake on at a more reasonable time, potentially when we are starting to look at going live, maybe would be an interesting time to get some people commenting while we go through some of these subjects.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. We should try that out just with Blake as well.
Yeah, I think Blake would be one of the more. Yeah, I just think lots of ideas get thrown around. It'd be cool to see that, and I think. Yeah, we all sort of have a common goal, but all sort of have slightly different views on how to go about it. But I'm sure we're going to get inundated with comments where people are like, wish we could have commented on this while it was live. But
we have to pick an interesting title for this one. So that'll be another. We have to talk about that. And also the other thing is a day when you're not as sick because your voice sounds like it's getting worse, Greg.
Yeah, and it's great when you got to teach kids and do stuff too. So, yeah, shit happens. But yeah, look, I'm sure people will have comments on this. Share them. Share the topic. I wouldn't dismiss anything that's been said in this conversation. Listen to all of it. Take what you want from it, but definitely don't just dismiss any of it. I think all the stuff that was brought up in this is for the greater good of the sport. Recently, I saw an article come up about the fact that NASCAR's dying over in the US, and there's some major sponsors pulling out from that series, and drifting will quickly head that direction all over the world if we don't have the greater support of the community and the car culture in general. So
and that's actually like you look at all the big major businesses that have gone bust, like your Kodaks of the world or your GMs and stuff. And I mean, the main reason that they all Toys R Us, the main reason they all didn't get, I don't know about Toys R Us, but the other ones probably the same, is they didn't evolve with times.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that my opinion is correct. It's probably not. I only think about what I think about at the time based on what comes in. I'd love to hear other people's opinions because that's how we all learn and we develop, right? So,
yeah, and look, and
talkback style. Talkback style would be sick.
That's what I'm saying. Like none of this is. None of these ideas should be dismissed, but none of them should be taken as gospel.
No, definitely not.
It should all be open opinion type stuff. So, and that's what I'm saying. It's don't listen to what we've said and go, oh, that's 100% what we have to do. No, like use it as a way to sort of do some further research and see what more you can do personally. If drifting is something you want to see succeed and continue in this country, based off the fact that it is succeeding in other parts of the world and in good ways. So, yeah, look. Thank you, Blake, for your time tonight.
Thanks for having me. It's good.
We will definitely be having you back on, even though we struggled to get you to to set up a camera to begin with, and you know, you look all swagalicious and stuff.
I think your camera's also
moved,
rotated like in your room.
Yeah,
like
I've developed I've developed around the room over the time.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
And we need. I think we need ideas for an outro song because people said they don't like listening to EG's awkward buys at the end. So.
Oh, I said that.
Oh. Yeah, I know, but I wasn't going to say it was you. But
sorry, because whatever.
So you can do our awkward buys now, Blake.
Okay.
I'm not doing anything. I can sing the Adam LZ outro song.
What's that?
No, I can't. I'm not going to sing it. I don't know. Like when I watch something. Well, when I watch, I haven't watched that much of it, but at the end of it, it's always the same song, and you're like, oh, yeah, that's pretty cool. Like, that's what you need, not your stupid goodbye thing. Whatever, I don't know.
An outro. I think an intro would be fine, but that's outro something. Okay, all right. But we'll probably need to do all those media.
And all those extra hours, mate.
All the extra. Yeah, I need to do stuff with Team Red Stage as well, so I haven't updated any of their videos.
Team who?
And Best damn drift team in Canberra.
That's right.
Lone Wolf.
Team Gerg.
Team Gerg.
All right.
Okay.
Goodbye, guys. Goodbye, guys. We'll catch you on the next
What about your high fives?
Well,
I never get to see them, but I always hear you talk about it for 5 minutes before you actually do it.
Yeah. Like, what are you going to... Well, are you into?
Am I all over it?
No.
I'm all over it.
I've got to go... Because your screen's cutting
there.
Off. You gotta go
in the middle.
The back.
Yeah.
Go towards yourself. Yeah. Bit more. There. Holy shit. Hang on, let me move that over.
What have you cut the screen or something? Oh,
yeah, I have. I've cut the screen, but I can't get my hand in the right spot.
So we're gonna high five or what?
Huh? Where the hell's your hand?
I don't need it. I'm gonna do it like.
Okay. All right. Go.
You ready?
All right.
All right.
Look at that sound effect.
Goodbye, people.
Okay.
We will talk to you on the next episode. Please share, subscribe, like, do all that sort of stuff. And, yeah, thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Yes.